Now it ain't a long way home, a long way home, no. Stars and moon, can you hear me calling? Just shouting out loud, spinning out in a great unknown. You got me way up high and there ain't no falling. Zero gravity with you here and I won't let go. I've been running a mile just to find my feet. Just finding a place where my heart can breathe. And all I know is holding you close, now you're here with me. Now it ain't a long way home, a long way home.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Yo.
Hola.
Yeah, I haven't got the notification yet.
Notification, Noti Squad. It's time for notifying. It's truly death-defying.
There we go. Happy Monday, everybody, on this Thanksgiving edition of Weird Things.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep. I'm just agreeing.
Yeah.
I like to agree too.
I'm down with it.
Yeah. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. To finish up some stuff over here. Everyone
I'm
have a
gonna
good
eat my
weekend?
crinkly Rice Krispies treat into the microphone.
Oh, we always love that bit. That's our favorite bit.
Making a moat.
My dad, I remember like my brother used to crack that because I'd go to the movies with my dad and he'd get the candy in the box. And my brother would watch, we'd walk in there and I always wanted to be quiet. So I'd take the bag out of the box, open up the bag, pour the candy into the box. My dad would grab the candy, the bag, the noisy bag out of the box, throw the box away. And my brother would just laugh at how just the difference between us, my dad, because then my dad would be in the movie.
Ugh.
There's a time of day at Wizard Academy classes, like 3 p.m, when people want to start snacking, and these are business classes, and there's 30 people in the room, so it's fairly quiet, except for the one person who's eating chips, and then that person finishes, and then someone else gets hungry, and then they eat chips, and it's just like I want to sponsor these chip bowls brought to you by Brian Brushwood. Please use them. Enjoy.
Well, it's just snack time,
Because then you're going to get the noise of people like opening the bag and then dumping it into the bowl and crinkling up the bag and throwing it away.
Oh man, I'd rather get that's a Band-Aid rip-off moment, right? That's like let's just get that done. Great, it's over.
Andrew, is there a way you can turn your mic down just a little bit, just a touch?
Yeah, let me see what's.
Hey, Justin, welcome back.
Well, hello.
Hi.
What did I miss?
Oh,
Is this better?
Just
I turned it
kidding,
off
I
from
heard it.
automatically adjusting. Oh, sorry.
That
Is this?
I'd seen everything.
that seems fine. That seems okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I think I'm good to go. Are you guys good to go? You good to go, Andrew?
Mm-hmm.
Brian and
Yep.
Justin?
All good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then you guys... Oh, let me put the chat on screen. I don't want to forget that. Hi, everybody.
I got one more bite here.
Okay. Take your one more bite. That's what they sell at the grocery stores. My brownie, one more bites.
Do they really call them that?
No.
That's a clever name.
Next week, where's Bryce? He got hired by Procter and Gamble to like name foods and stuff.
The Chips Ahoy, one more bite.
They literally showed up with a limousine.
Full of cookies.
Guys, we were just watching the Weird Things podcast, and we heard genius.
Yep.
We'd like to buy your podcast. Wait, that's not the right acquisition.
And all ideas you've had while doing the podcast.
Procter and Gamble, a science company, a space company.
I just remember like when the Keebler came out with the soft batch chocolate chip cookies. You're like, half my childhood, this didn't exist. Why did you guys take out your goddamn time?
Soft cookies are the best, man.
I'm the best. You're like, who, you had this technology?
I mean,
I could have been eating these.
there's a nice crunch when you have a crunchier cookie, but the soft is so decadent. I don't know, it's just so good. I don't know. Where do you guys stand, Brian? Hard
On
cookies?
soft cookies versus hard cookies?
Yeah.
Soft all the way. If I could, I would just skip the cooking them and just eat the cookie dough always.
Hey, well, I have a product for you.
Is it called cookie dough? Man, I definitely, when I became a freshman in college, had nobody to tell me no, and there was a lot of cookie dough in that first year.
Fortunately, your resistance to salmonella is at its highest there, so you're good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
You good? All right,
Yep.
I'm gonna make a tweet.
Oh, I'll retweet your tweet.
Hashtag dive. Yeah, we'll do it. Weird Things Podcast is live. Tweet. Tweet. Tweet, 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 tweet. There we go. All right. All right, then. Double check everything. Recording over there. Recording. Time sync. Got my emails. I got the thing that you sent me just a few minutes ago, Andrew. Alrighty. Oh. He's got his tweet face on. I got the tongue working. Furrow the brow, the sweat dripping. Tweet music.
Wham, 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 wham. Wang, 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 wang. What's up, soy boys? Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy it's coming together.
I feel like we need like a rad like 80s skate, like a skate tee of you as Glaxnar. Like merch.
Oh, I'm just so happy with how it's coming together. That's great.
Yeah.
What? Nobody knows because we won't talk about it. That's for sure. Not until it's done.
Yep. Yeah, we're out of the business of making hollow promises, and now we're into the business of coyly referring to things.
Not even coyly.
Yeah, very
Not
clever.
even
It's
coyly.
been, I don't think anyone's figured it out.
Hey, did my microphone volume go up again or something? Because I thought I just told it not to.
I think you're okay.
You
Did you see the setting change?
do you
Yeah.
have one of those things enabled that gives Skype permission to turn stuff up and down?
I said automatic. I turned automatically just off,
Hmm.
and I put it at 4 or 5, and now I came back. It's 8. There's something in the computer.
What if you hang up from this call, turn it back on, and turn that setting off? Because I know Skype sometimes
Doesn't like you changing stuff
is
mid-call?
Yeah, is wonky about that stuff.
Good. I will take advantage
Sure.
of that opportunity
Oh.
to go to the restaurant.
It should take that. Okay.
Bye.
Check.
Hey, friends, it's just me and Bryce
Hey,
hanging
everybody.
out. Hey, you want to know what's weird? When it's just me and Bryce.
Is this-
That's a thing.
This is a weird time. Hey, Justin. Speaking of being
Yeah.
coy, I haven't told either of you guys this. I have 2 projects I'm cooking up right now, and I'm gonna be recording those in the next week or so.
Are these musical in nature?
No, they're podcasts,
Oh,
and I'll have to
you
text.
don't say.
I'll have to text you next sometime to be on one of them because you'd be really good for one of them.
Good, yeah. No,
Um, But
my virtual door is always open, which I didn't realize how gross that sounded until it came out of my mouth.
your digital door, your digital
My
virtual
digital door is always open.
Just stick your digits in that door.
Yeah, that we're only getting gross.
Is that okay?
Yeah, we're only. This is not.
That's how you pry open the door with both
scene.
hands.
Oh, jeez.
Digital doors does sound like something that, you would. All right, there's no that's good, so we're gonna stop it.
Digital Doors, what are they, an 8-bit Doors chiptune tribute band? More like the Digital Snores.
Digital Doors is an 8-bit Doors band.
Wait, I'm doing a Girl from Impany. I'm trying to do the bass riff for Break On Through. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Light My Fire would have been easier.
No vibrato. Welcome back, Andrew.
Digital Doors.
Hey. You there?
Yo.
I almost thought you were frozen, but I could see your eyes moving.
Yeah. Nice try.
Your eyes betrayed you.
Yet again.
All right. You want to light this candle?
Yeah.
All right, then.
Let's take this monkey to the zoo.
Yeah, and take it away in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by my good pal Bryce Castillo.
Hi, everybody. That's
Whoa,
second
got him.
billing on the Weird
Oh,
Things
you thought you were gonna get him,
You can't
but you
trick
didn't.
me.
Yeah,
Joining
don't
us
think
today-
I won't report this. I'm reporting this to the union.
Joining us today are our two special guests. They're, I guess they do some sort of Attack the Night show or something, and they do, what is it? A philosophy podcast, Jason, and
Philosophy.
Fran, you do some sort of you teach kids magic tricks, right?
Yeah, shockingly accurate.
That one's already a joke.
Yeah.
Joining me, of course, are Justin Robert Young,
It's me. Hi, friends.
Brian Brushwood.
Boy.
I just had to manage your expectations and change them and subvert them.
That's how you keep us stimulated. Thank you for stimulating us.
Yeah.
Man, speaking of stimulation, there was a story I thought about doing, which was about how male baboons greet each other.
Go on.
Is it?
You know what? Let's do a little bit here called "Hey, Google this." Male baboons greeting each other.
Is it? What I'm guessing is the forbidden handshake.
There's a scientific term that involves the diddle is one of the words, and it's like, "Hey, what's going on? Hey, how are you? All right. Well, we've bonded."
TIL. That's great. Yeah. It looks like they fondle each other's genitals.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, say what you want about the format and the show and the execution, but we deliver.
We do.
Yeah. So
In fact, it's as if we auditorially fondle your genitals as we greet you on this show, and now we begin with our main topic.
yeah. So anyhow, I call this topics that story all you need to know.
Yeah, it is pretty much. We got it. We got you stem to stern right there.
Yep. Which is another way of greeting each other, but we won't go into that. So, I want to manage your expectations. I want to elevate your expectations. You know, it's coming up.
Chris, Black Friday,
Hey.
Cyber Monday.
Yeah.
I love that also. Brian went, not only did he skip Thanksgiving, because who cares, right? Yeah, he doesn't have to put any effort into Thanksgiving. But his first thought was Christmas buying season, and his second thought was, no, plug the beginning of Christmas buying season.
I actually meant Christmas, but then I realized, you know what I'm more excited about than Christmas? is Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
There's a whole holiday
The
before that.
financial future of my family.
Oh.
Well, it'll be Monday. There's something cool happening Monday.
This Monday?
It's the 26th.
Not Cyber Monday.
Oh.
I mean, no, it'll be on the same day as, but I'm not talking about that event.
Is it a SpaceX launch?
Not a SpaceX launch.
Blue Origin?
Not a Blue Origin launch.
Ooh, a new challenger has entered the arena.
Not a new challenger in the arena.
Wait. NASA, do they still launch rockets?
You know, Brian, they launched one on May 5th that had a payload.
Oh, that seems like a long time ago.
Yeah. Boy, I wonder where it was going.
Oh, wait, is it going to make it to... is there going to be another Mars landing?
Mars Insight, ding ding, lands on Monday.
Oh, right on. And so what? Last time I paid attention to a Mars landing, it was that crazy Rube Goldberg setup where it's like they had to kind of float down and then engage rockets and then hover just long enough to drop a car onto the surface. Is this going to be like that?
This is going to be actually this probe is going to land on the surface of Mars. It's not going to be like the crazy sky crane thing, but it's going to be pretty sophisticated in itself. What this is designed to do is going to do some drilling into Mars, and they're going to try to measure, what's underneath the soil. It wants to do some seismic observations of the interior of the planet, things that we've really, have no idea yet. It'll be it's an exciting scientific mission as far as finding out what's going on inside of Mars, even just right below the surface where it lands and much deeper down.
So how deep do we know how deep this is going to be able to drill?
I don't expect it to deep. I think it's going to be using like a laser and some other things. So I don't think it's going to go super deep, but some of the instruments it are going to even try to measure the wobble of the planet.
Oh, wild.
So we're seeing different, an armature that just, detaches from there and then it sticks to the surface, which I think is going to have the ability to, listen to seismic activities. They've got, this robotic arms, just putting out all these different probes and stuff, like just unloading them from there. So, a lot of cool stuff about the nature, the geology of Mars. Probably get some insight into, just subsurface features. But one thing that's curious is we don't know, we say like Mars, it's like a dead planet, has no more geothermal activity, but we're not totally sure of that. There could still be lava and stuff.
And I assume that, but the core is definitely solid and dead, or do we know that? I guess there's no magnetic field. We know that much.
Not a strong enough one, but we don't. You can still have a hot core and not have a magnetic field. So, yeah.
Wild. So, man, can you imagine working for half a decade on a project and launching it, and then shrugging your shoulders and saying, well, hope it works, hope it lands, hope everything goes anywhere.
Yeah. Or we're looking at a probe pushing itself deep into the surface of Mars. This is cool. It's actually going much deeper than I thought. So this is this interesting kind of like an inverse sort of bullet that's being pushed down. It looks like it's going to go like maybe a meter or so into. We've never, we've barely scratched the surface of Mars. So this is exciting. And yeah,
it is also in such a fun context now, because previously Mars exploration is obviously always going to be a scientific achievement, that you're able to get something up there and land it and have it all work and have the data come back. But now with the idea of Mars being something that is more in the foreground than it really ever has been in terms of colonization or visitation or the first man or woman on Mars is something that we now seems at least on track that we'll see by our lifetime. This is a lot more prescient than just facts that we can throw in a science textbook.
Yeah, we're the debate has moved. When would will we go this century to? Will we go in 10 years? Will we go in 20 years? And that it's more than just counting the bricks in Narnia.
Yeah,
it's a real place. So it's exciting. So what's cool is they're going to be doing a number of public viewing events across the U.S., probably elsewhere in the world. And if you go to like NASA, go to their page for Insight, you can see how to watch it in person. And I'm going to be going to one actually while we're doing this at the same time as this show. So we'll figure that out over at Caltech. They're doing a viewing there. So they're going to have some scientists and stuff and
rad.
Fun. So I thought that would be kind of a cool thing to do. But yeah, tons of things all over California because, this is like a big JPL project and a lot of people there. But if you take a look, there's a lot of public viewing parties, but they're going to be streaming it online. And I highly recommend, people watch. This is, we talk a lot, obviously, about some other space organization. But this is what NASA is great at. This is what NASA is, the world leader at. And this is how NASA is moving, humankind forward with asking questions about, and you can go see Mars, by the way. If you go out at night and you go look, you'll see the little orange star. Well, it's, a planet, but, it's kind of neat to go look at that and think like, man, we're going to have something land there.
So,
cool.
plus you have
there's a big viewing party right here in the East Bay, so maybe I'll head out there.
there really is an electricity to the moment by moment, the non-zero chance of catastrophic failure does enhance, even if you're not into sports.
Keeping it positive, Brian.
Yeah, well, no. I mean that's part of the electricity of it, is like knowing that stuff might explode or go bad is part of what makes it so joyful when it lands and works.
And Mars had been pretty tricky for years. Like, it was something like half of all Mars probes failed. And like, I don't know if the Russians have ever managed to get anything on the surface that lasted, and it's interesting. You go back to like when we did the Viking probes, it's interesting too, because we had instruments in there and experiments that we expected to work, but then they maybe didn't work, and then it was inconclusive, and space is hard.
Well, I mean, and yeah, talk about, this is a rare field where you have to have A, the desire, B, the engineering know-how, and C, the money to put into it. And that puts us into fairly rare company to be able to carve out. And obviously there's been much discussion about, the NASA budget, but the fact that it's large enough that we can continually try to send probes to Mars is just an amazing sign of our dedication to space exploration as a country.
Bryce has found a wonderful page which goes into explaining the different missions that InSight's going to do. So, there's also, I think they sent with it, 2 mini spacecraft, Mars Cube 1 and Mars, that were designed to see putting CubeSats out there. And they're going to try. We already have a satellite in orbit at Mars that we use for communications. That's going to be the uplink for this, but we're going to try using a CubeSat to do that too.
Nice.
I totally failed on that mute. I was reaching for the mute button and I sneezed. For audio listeners.
Fine. That's fine. Nobody noticed. But you want to know what folks will notice is that their hard-earned money is going to a good cause when they give it to patreon.com/weirdthings. That is where you can support this show. Look, you've heard us talk about it week after week. So we'll go ahead and spare you all the awesome things that can happen when you go to patreon.com/weirdthings, including the custom RSS feed that gives you all the bonus content in one RSS feed. Because, boys, today is Thank You Patrons Day.
What?
Patreon has made the concerted effort to let everybody know that the patrons are the thing, the power that keeps a lot of these independent outfits going. We are no different. So what do you say we just go around real quick and we say a little quick thank you to our patrons of Weird Things?
Oh, yeah. You want to call them out by name?
I mean, we sure. I was thinking about just talking about what it means to us, but we can call them out by name. If you want.
No. There's hundreds of them. Never mind.
Yeah, so it seemed to be a bit of a time expenditure. But
the normal thing during Thanksgiving where you just say the names of your family members.
No, I'll tell you what, man. We've talked about this before. We've been we got dangerously close to pod fading and Weird Things no longer being around. And the regular infusion of cash keeps the show on the schedule and allows us to keep showing up every single week. And it means a lot to me because that also, so much of this show has defined my friendship with Andrew and with Justin, and it's a double gift. Like, the gift of cash enables us to carve out the gift of time that is able to keep everything going.
So you have to be paid to be our friend? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I have to have a reason to spend the time for 3 hours on a Monday afternoon with you. And cash is a pretty good way to explain that to my wife. I would say...
No, Andrew, it's fine. It's fine. Brian didn't mean it like that. he would be friends with you no matter what, even if he wasn't getting paid.
So
He-
if people don't contribute to the show, Brian,
I don't want
You're
to
not
say
gonna
we
be
won't
my
be
friend?
friends. You know, I'll always
Brian,
think of you
Brian.
fondly.
Think
But
very
not like a
carefully
gibbon
about what
or
you're saying,
a
and
baboon.
please let Andrew know that you'd be his friend without payment.
I'll be your friend no matter what. But this way we get to do more
but
talking.
you won't hang out with me.
That's-
You hear that, everybody? I don't have a lot of friends, everybody.
Andrew,
Kind of my own
Andrew,
social time here.
Brian
Don't take
was-
this away from me, people.
Thank you very much, patrons.
Yeah, look, hey, real talk. We started this Patreon at a point where we were all busy, and we've only gotten busier. And this podcast has only has survived multiple television shoots and multiple vacations and business things, and the fact that we are able to have a reason to keep this show going, because man. It would be probably easier for us to maybe take a few weeks off, but we don't, because we want to make sure that we are here for you guys, and you guys have made it clear to us that this is something that is important to you in your weekly podcast diet, and we love and respect you for it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. On Thank You Patrons Day, we thank you.
As long as we're talking about Patreon, I just opened Patreon, just the main page, and it's got this kind of cyclical little clip of all the different creators. And I looked down, and there's Tom Merritt. Tom Merritt on the front page of Patreon.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've had him out there for
Yeah.
a minute. Someone doesn't go to patreon.com very much.
No,
He's
no, I
basically
don't.
the
I mean, I go
PewDiePie.
straight to
He's the
our page
PewDiePie
on there.
Patreon.
Right. I am here a lot to log in for for the campaign.
He
But yeah,
shows up
he's,
right after Philip DeFranco.
So support
Yeah.
us. Help fight my loneliness.
Oh, here it comes.
Something tells me that isn't putting the value proposition for the listener up front, Andrew.
You wouldn't like me when I'm lonely.
Okay, well, that's why we're openly threatening our listenership. So, and this is thank you, Patrons Day, not watch your ass, Patrons Day.
Same thing. So really quick updates. There was two updates in space thing. One, Virgin Galactic, which we talked about before, one of the big players. They just did a test. Our Virgin Orbital, I forget which Virgin space company is. Let me pull this up. They just did a test of placing Virgin Orbit. They placed a rocket, their Launch One rocket, underneath the wing of airplane, when the airplanes are going to use for launching. They want to launch these smaller payloads into orbit, and so they just did a test just to see if the rocket would not fall off. Guess what? Didn't fall off.
Nice. Although it is really weird to see a commercial airliner looking like it's armed.
It looks like it has a missile. God.
Yeah, man, this is on one hand a very, very exciting step forward into getting low Earth orbit payloads into space, and also a gigantic flex by Richard Branson not to F with him.
Yeah.
That's also one of those things. I remember as a kid having that thought, why don't they just fly a rocket up real high and then launch it from there? And then now to see it being tried, I'm very excited.
Well, I mean, remember though, that's what we used to do. That was the back to early the X planes and stuff. Our
Right.
first times that we got people into space, that borderline was. You did that, and there was this idea we had to go bigger, and but they would still do there was Pegasus, some other missiles, but now that it's exciting to see commercial people doing this and exploring that. And we talked about was it Stratolaunch building the world's largest airplane because the problem is your airplanes are too small to carry big rockets. Paul Allen, bless his soul, is now passed on. He's like, I got an idea. Big ass airplane.
Dude, that thing is amazing. That thing is amazing looking.
That was designed to be able to, that could carry, I think, a Falcon 9 rocket.
Wow.
Jeez Louise with cheese. That's a
Yeah.
big old plane.
Big old plane. So those are cool things. And then another minor detail is Elon Musk had said that they're going to be doing something cool with the upper stage of the Falcon 9 rocket. They're going to like take one for testing purposes, put like heat shields on it and all that to make a mini BFR, Big Falcon rocket. That's their next generation, or Big Falcon spaceship, to test some of those technologies. It won't like propulsively land, whatever, but that's going to be something we're going to see. So they're going to be doing a bit, kind of calling it a mini BFR, but it's not really but it is a way to test it. But he also said over the weekend on Twitter that they're no longer going to pursue full reuse of the upper stage of the Falcon 9 rocket. They'd been talking about trying to bring that back because that's like, almost half the cost of the rocket there. He says, nope, we're no longer doing that. We're focusing entirely on the BFR now.
I mean, that's got to be a pretty strong indication that they're having a lot of pleasing results with what they're seeing so far. Like that is definitely a vote of confidence. That's the kind of move you do when it's so clear to you that what you're doing is working and the BFR is going to be the ultimate game changer. That it's like, why are we even wasting any of these resources on the smaller things?
What, the iPhone? What about the iPod?
Right,
You're
exactly.
You're going to kill the iPod.
Yeah,
and so it's a smart move.
I guess in this week in space groups giving up on stuff, did I read right that NASA hinted that they're not even really going to try to finish the SLS?
No, I mean the statement is they spoke to one of the NASA administrators, and they had said, if there's economically viable options, i.e. Blue Origin or SpaceX, then we would pursue those. Which is soft hinting, saying that if they do that, then yeah, we don't see ourselves throwing a lot more money into SLS. I'm sure we're going to see the SLS rocket launch, at least once or something, just because of the amount of ego and all that involved. But it is interesting though, is that the after the midterms, I think one of the big SLS backers is no longer in office. So
it might be DOA or.
We'll see. We'll see. It'll be. It's a lot of people work for that.
These things move very slowly, and even if there is a tremendous let me put this in a political context, right? Currently, right now in our House of Representatives, there is the Democrats are trying to figure out who their leadership will be, and there is no secret that there are factions on certain sides of who wants who to be a leader, but very few people have said publicly what they are going to do, because nobody wants to come out and be on the losing side. They want to fight this kind of behind the scenes and then eventually coalesce around what happens. That's kind of indicative of just government in general, specifically when you have big things that you don't want to be on the wrong side of. The people that have put together the SLS are gigantic players in Washington. They are gigantic players for things far more reaching than space travel. So nobody wants to scuttle anything, even if the writing is on the wall that should other cheaper options be available, then it will be less politically viable to go to the end zone with the SLS in the way that we might have traditionally 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if it was just the only option to do what we thought we wanted to do. So I would say nobody's going to say anything until we know for sure that SpaceX and Blue Origin are launching these kinds of rockets with a regularity that would totally make the SLS obsolete.
So we in Florida, I don't want to get too down a political rabbit hole, which that's going to be Justin's newest show, Politics Rabbit Hole. Bill Nelson lost his re-election bid, and Bill Nelson has been a big advocate for space and the SLS, and so now because the SLS brought lots of jobs to Florida and all that, and probably very good, for that. So he's no longer going to be serving. We'll see whatever he can run for office from that, something else, but he's out. Bill Nelson, you may remember too. I mean, very very devoted to space, so much so NASA flew him on a shuttle mission back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And, it's one thing when John Glenn, who'd been up before and been an astronaut, kind of got to go back. But when, you're like, What are your qualifications?
It's
for
like
going?
we're doing a very important mission to find out how space affects legislatures.
Yeah. No, we have a very important scientific trial to see who's a special boy. Who's a special boy that gets to go to space?
But he's been he's been a big champion, for space, for NASA, and absolutely doing a lot to bring, a lot of that to, the Florida area, whatever. The other side of it is like one of those big programs is the SLS, which, we would love to see the same amount of money or more going to NASA, but maybe spread across other, more Mars Insight, more stuff like this. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to speak for you guys, but that's what I'd like to see.
Well, I think, look, this is something that we have known about space travel, and specifically these big, gigantic NASA projects, is that very often they are a prisoner of when they get the funding and what they like, when this plan is put into motion. And the SLS was put into motion, fairly a lot closer to the beginning of this podcast than we are now, and it certainly bears the hallmarks of a project that was, maybe 5 years before a lot of the really, really, really exciting things have happened with rocketry. So,
well, and there's it's so tempting for us to use hindsight to act like, why did you even bother? But and it's still too early to stop. I mean, you could make the argument at the point that they made that plan that they were already you could already see where things were going. That I think, look, it is a relic of a bygone era. A, it's the plan. B, the way that it's being done. It was an era when there really weren't a lot of players in that space, and they could say, hey, look, this is the way that it's done, and then everyone would say, cool. I don't see a lot of other options on this menu. Sure. How much does it cost? Oh, it'll only cost all the money in the world. Wink, wink. It'll actually be 4 times all the money in the world. And we're like, cool. That's awesome. And then we'd go along with it. Now we're just in a different world. And that, if you want to look at cost certainty, again, right, replay every reason why privatized space is important rant that we've had on this show. And there you go. That's my thank you patrons gift to you guys. Yeah. We have to do the same.
I was at there was a mini Magic convention Saturday here in LA. It was a Penguin Magic put this on, and I dropped by there and just say hello. And I wore, as usual, I had a SpaceX jacket on. And I hear this guy behind me go, "Oh, you work for Elon?" And I turn around, I'm like, "No, sir, I'm too stupid." And there was a guy there with a hat, and he says, I said, but I just love space. And started talking to him. He worked on the emergency abort system for the Saturn, for the Apollo mission.
No kidding. That's that rocket on top of the rocket, where it's like if you needed a GTFO, you would fire the rocket on top of the rocket that would take the capsule away.
Right. And the way that it worked, because he was excited, because I'm like, oh, you had the cables running on either side. If both those got severed and all that. And he started explaining that, how they use det cord around the docking rings and some other stuff. And then he's actually working on a project now.
Det cord is what? Detonation cord?
Yeah, it's like a little explosive cord. So like he's like 82 years old, and he's still working on a project where they're trying to do hybrid rocket motors, using different kind of fuels and things like this and stuff. And so he and some enthusiasts, they just go work on this stuff. They're still developing stuff. I'm like, that's awesome. And he said that he made a comment. He says, JPL stopped working on rocket fuels like 20 years ago or something like that, because they said, it solved science. I'm like, wow, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory stopped working on. I don't, that's what he said. But it was like, and that's part of the institutional thinking, though, that's frustrating. Is that like, no, we did the math. You can't land a rocket booster. Doesn't make any sense, and it's more cost effective just to buy a new one. No, we figured out the rocket fuels we need to use. We know this.
We stopped fueling.
Yeah, we stopped fueling.
That's me stealing Bryce's line.
All right, change of topic now. I want you guys to imagine you're all putting on VR headsets.
Okay. Already, this is an improbable thing to visualize, but
you got your VR headsets on. Okay. Put on your gloves. Get your gloves.
Okay. Right? Justin's going all out, looking retro.
And now, pterodactyls are flying. You're playing Dactyl Nightmare, maybe. Like one of the original VR games back from like the 90s that used like Amigas.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Okay. Cool. Now, I want you to walk forward because you see something interesting, a crystal that maybe has some power for you.
Oh my God, that crystal looks like it has power.
Now walk towards it.
I'm walking towards
Oh,
it.
you just hit your couch and you fell over and hit your face.
Oh no, my balls!
This is why VR will never work. I've been saying this for
Oh.
years.
That's
All right.
it. My balls can only take so much. Enough with you, virtual reality. To the dustbin of history.
You're, wah, wah, and the ghost of the Nintendo Virtual Boy laughs at you.
Yeah, there we go. In the sad dustbin of history, the virtual boy smokes its last cigarette that it picked up out of the gutter and says, "Welcome."
Yeah. So here you are crying on the floor because the illusion is incomplete. You went to go walk and you walked into something because your virtual world you're in, it's ephemeral. It's just zeros and ones. And here you are, this ape trying to interact with it. The problem is your primary way of moving is locomotion. And if you're in a contained environment,
Yeah.
sucks.
Only so much
well,
you can do
what
with
are you
it.
gonna do about it? You can't fight City VR.
It's true. Well, we've seen like the treadmill proposals, right? The idea of the big
Yeah.
treadmill, right?
Yeah, and
Like
then there's also
Vertex on
the slippery shoes one as well, where it's like you're basically standing in a bowl, and then
Mm-hmm.
you wear special shoes that just slide as you run forward.
Now, hey, get rid of the special bowl, and I'm giving you Google VR shoes.
Oh wait, build the motors into the shoes, so you just stand in place and what?
Google filed a patent for VR shoes.
Whoa. So what would they be like? Basically like mice trackballs all over your feet.
You know, I don't know, but if you look at how far we've come along on putting stupid wheels on your feet technology,
Yeah.
the leaps and bounds we've made that nobody really asked for is incredible. And so now, but they're like, hey, that it is amazing what like these things you've seen these like one wheel roller skates and all this stuff that's self-balancing. So their idea is motorized skates, that go on your shoes that are completely like robotically controlled. So if you start walking, it keeps you wherever you need to be.
It's constantly, if you're walking forward, it's moving you backwards. So you are walking, but you are not moving.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Well, and I guess that's the other thing too, is I would imagine that there has to be some kind of interesting tactile feedback because the way we walk forward is we lean our bodies forward and then step forward. And then if, for example, we do that onto ice and our feet don't make purchase, then we have a problem in that our center of mass is now ahead of our feet and that we're falling. I don't know how they can make that work.
Well, one thing that it looks like is part of the patent here is that it recognizes that there is a VR safe zone. So it could be a thing where it lets you walk within a certain tolerance, and then when you reach the end of the safe zone, that's when it motorizes you backwards.
And
We need to talk to
possible.
whoever's doing these illustrations, by the way.
These are great illustrations.
From what I understand, you intentionally, when you file patents, want to make your pictures as vague as possible.
Generalized,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
There's a
but I would
game theory
expect the
reason.
person to have arms.
Yeah. We'll say that later. You can claim credit for that idea when somebody says, "Well, ours are with arms." So how would that work? I guess you lean forward. To me, this feels like we talked about like those video games where it shapes the direction you go to sort of make it feel like you can go any direction you want, but they keep every time you turn a corner they spin it not quite the right amount so that you're generally staying in the same area. I could imagine something like that happening subtly with your feet at all times. Like as you're walking forward, it's sort of maybe what they're doing is you're still walking forward, but they're twisting the direction you go, so it feels like you're walking forward, but you're actually walking in a circle the whole time.
Well, I think you could do a thing when you're moving up that, like if you put your weight on one foot, it's slowly moving it backwards, or you're moonwalking, or
So maybe it doesn't. You're not really staying in place, or maybe when you feel like you're staying still, it is slowly returning you back to center, or when you're walking forward, it feels like you're taking big steps, but you're not. But you're making progress at like half the speed. So, in other words, what is let's say a 20 by 20 play space feels effectively like a 50 by 50 play space.
So to quote this Ars Technica article from Ron Amadeo, he writes, quote, "The tracking would know when you're too close to the virtual walls of your VR area, and the system would wheel you back into place." So it almost sounds like a rubber band situation where you would mostly be walking normally until you get too close, and then it would bring you back.
Yeah.
So it may not be totally gradual. It may be more stop and start than
I
surface.
will say that might not be the jarring physical transition that you would think. Like, having been immersed in the Vive, there's definitely moments where if I were slowly kind of returned gently back to center, the rest of the immersion would be enough that I'd be fine. Or even if it was more manual than that, and when I got to my edge, I could just hit like the wheel me back, Scotty, without having to worry about walking.
And I'll bet, because your parallax cues, your visual cues, your audio cues, and everything are still telling you the story of your staying still. Like, there may be kind of an otherworldliness in your gut sensation, but I think we would write that off and very quickly learn to trust the shoes.
And we should point out, J.C. Calhoun points us out, Google did not invent the idea of let's put things on your shoes to do VR and walk around and stuff. There's a link there to an Indiegogo project from Jamie Heineman from Mythbusters, who'd been working on this for several years. And so but the idea is, like, can you find a way that really makes it work? Like treadmills, like people saying treadmills for VR, but how do you make it work? And with the shoes, it's like wheels on your shoes, stand in place. Yes, and.
Oh, do both. That'd be wild. Yeah. Because the problem with the treadmills is that they can only go so fast right now. And that's interesting. So maybe a combination of the two of them. Now all of a sudden you're able to double up to running speed because the shoes are able to compensate for half of your speed and the treadmill for the other. I
think that, I don't know what the long-term solution is, but I think that we're ready to go take another stab at doing kind of cool treadmill stuff because of how advanced robotics are. Imagine one that was something that was like square tiles that could move in any direction backwards and forward and fed off, that was like, you thought more of like surfaces that move. There's a lot of, I'm excited now because we had a great run of really cool computer tech, and we still do. Hardware seemed to be lagging for a while, but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, drones started popping up, all these really cool control systems, and and that's what's exciting now. Is I think that now, if we get more hobbyists working on this, I think we will find a very cool.
You know what else? Here's another benefit that I hadn't really thought of: the haptic feedback that you could get. You could feel the difference between walking on the rock-covered surface of Mars versus the soft grass-covered surface of Earth, or even you'd be able to feel the sensation of, much like you would with gloves. You could reach down and dip your toe in the water, and you could feel the water splashing around in there.
Well, I'll give you like a crazy idea. Imagine 2 articulated robot arms.
Mm-hmm.
And you step on them, and they sense when you raise your foot.
Oh yeah!
Oh, that's cool.
Like a
and
stair
that would have to be a really smart system. But we have made, if you look at even in the last 2 years, even like some of the stuff we've been doing for algorithms for walking, like making robots that walk. There's one called
if Boston Dynamics can make a backflipping running robot, then surely they can make a pair of arms that are able to handle that same type of motion from a human.
And you can, like, the average person who gets interested in coding, like we've talked about before, like OpenAI, they have a thing called AI Gym, where you can try to develop algorithms to learn things, like learn how to build a bipedal system that controls it. There's new algorithms like augmented random search can figure out walking, like really, really quick, how to make some balance and stuff. And you take the inverse of that, how do I keep somebody from falling over? And you used to have 2 fast-moving kind of industrial robot kind of things that doing this sort of
Holy
surface.
cow, can you imagine having so much trust in those electronics that they're just pads and you actually are jumping and dancing and leaping left to right and it's just catching you everywhere you go? That would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
That would be phenomenal. That's a brilliant idea.
Somebody make it. Bryce, get on it.
Yeah.
Get on it. Listen, we already thanked you, patrons. Now you do something.
I will say, we were talking about force feedback in VR, and I found 2 different companies that make VR gloves that have force feedback and will simulate, holding objects. They're kind of these little exoskeleton sorts of things, but it looks like they'll do tracking, and they'll make it like, oh, you're holding this thing? Cool. We're not going to let you move. And it makes you feel like you're holding a thing.
I don't know if I've told this story before, but before I became a magician, I wanted to do 3D modeling and animation. So I went to SIGGRAPH in LA, must have been 23 years ago or so. And one of the things they had, this is mid-90s, they had a very simple version of this. It was just it looked like a stylus on an arm. And you saw a picture of an electron microscope of a piece of a CD where you saw all the dits and dots and all that stuff. And they said, okay, you could feel it. So you could only do it in the context of you grabbed the stylus and then you moved it around on the arm. But it did, like you could drag it along and feel it go blop, blop, blop. So I have to imagine that technology has only gotten smaller and cheaper and faster and better.
Do you remember the Robert Heinlein story? It was like Waldo. I'm looking up the name. There was like 2 stories, Waldo and Magic, but Waldo was the story. He wrote in 1942, and the idea was this guy who developed incredible miniaturized technology because he had these gloves that could control these little manipulators and make small things, and he used them to make a smaller set of gloves. And smaller until he was like almost like on the the molecular, probably the MIMS level, what we describe it as now. And that's the neat thing. Those gloves, Bryce showed, they're bulky, but it's like that's where it starts. You look at the haptic engine in your Apple Watch and how it can do these amazing touching things like this. And that's it's like solid state tech. And you start thinking once VR really takes off and you're like, oh, well, let's figure out how to put this in something the size of, just a really thick contact lens that goes on your fingertips or whatever. I mean, what an age.
Yeah.
But you know what? That technology isn't here now, and it certainly won't help us with our mission.
Yes.
Oh, we have a mission, gentlemen.
Oh, good.
And we need to start a super team.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay.
Super team assemble.
Can we be in the super team?
You can be in the super team, but Bryce, you're not cut out for super team stuff. You know that you're not a team member. You're a leader, like a potential world leader.
Okay.
Oh, that was a swerve. Look at you, first announced on the podcast. Everything's coming up roses.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna send Bryce. Bryce, the problem is, Bryce. By the way, Bryce, what is your real name, or what is the name the world will know you as?
Oh, my legal name, my Christian name, is Bartholomew Castillo
Jessup.
Yeah, Bartholomew Castillo Jessup.
BCJ.
BCJ. Besiege.
Bruh.
Let's go with the Nesh.
Okay.
Master
Nesh.
Nesh.
Referred to as the Nesh.
Yeah. Commander Bryce.
Okay.
Commander
Sure.
Bryce.
Yes. Hello. Hi. I am the president of the world.
But not yet.
Not yet. Almost.
Yeah.
Like any supervillain, you've got to have plans and plots, ways to make money.
Wait, I'm a villain.
Oh, whoops. We let that one slip, didn't we?
Say what?
I didn't know I was a villain.
Yeah.
I thought this is more of a democratic process.
Yeah, we were excited about this super team, but then I think we found out something
The
early.
Nesh wave was maybe more benevolent than that.
No, Commander Bryce. No. I mean, you are benevolent. You have an idea for the world, and maybe they just won't listen. And it's your job to do this. And you may have to engage in activities you're uncomfortable with. And I just sent you an item about one of your plots to raise money to help liberate the world.
Ah, I see. Well,
You can't talk about it yet.
I can't. No, it's classified information for the next bit here. But
All right, yo, did anyone call for a super team? Justin and I are here.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what-
Hey, look, we heard a lot of things going on, and we're here to investigate it. We're the super team known globally as a big man and
the other one.
the other one.
Hi, my name is Max Prologue.
Good.
The
We've
Department
always
of-
teamed with Max Prologue. Just me, big man, and the other one.
I never leave my office, in Operation Info Dump here. So, gentlemen, I'm glad you're here. I'm putting
Yeah,
together
hey-
a team. I
hey,
can only
Max.
afford 2 members of the team.
Why don't you go ahead and give us the scoop using only words and no actions that will play out in this field of conflict?
Fantastic. First, who are you? I don't know you by your secret identities.
No. We this is our we are of course the superhero tandem, big man and the other one.
Yeah, a lot of people think he's a big man, but I'm the other one.
The other. I like the other. The other's kind of cool. The other one's a little superfluous.
Yeah, well.
Oh no, that's just what I call him.
It's
because we're close.
I mean, to be honest, I plan to have kids someday, and I hope they'll be the other junior. But until then, the other one.
Yeah, but he likes to just like in the ears of his vanquished foes, he likes to whisper, "Fear the other."
Now, do you guys have like powers, or I need to send you into the armory
Well,
and let
we
you
wanted,
choose
yeah, we
stuff?
wanted to talk about this. Is this more of like an altered human thing? Like you got various radioactive creatures, we get to pick which one bites us, or is it like an exoskeleton thing?
We got a medical lab here. I've got an armory over here. You pick. You pick. It's you pick day here.
All right, well, here, let's
Department of Info Dump.
What do I got?
Yeah, so I'm the big man, which means I grow very large. So I'm going to need some.
We got an inflatable suit.
Good. I need an inflatable suit.
Inflatable
need,
exoskeleton suit.
All right, you know what? I don't know.
By the way, I'm gonna need some magnums.
Yeah.
All right, I'm seeing here this whole bucket of irradiated earthworms, and it seems like that'd be cool. So I'm just gonna eat all these radioactive earthworms, and oh, what is this? Now all of a sudden my fingers are prehensile like individual worms, and I can shudder,
you now have
and my
prehensile hands.
my body will turn into a bunch of worms. I'm basically Mr. Fantastic, only with a worm theme.
you have unlimited options.
No, this
All right. New name, Brian. Worm is disgusting, although your breakdancing moves are amazing right now.
Oh my god!
Your worm is really
Hey,
convincing.
you should see me limbo. Watch this.
So our team has some suggested names. Shah Halud.
Shai Hulud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. I know where this is headed. Keep going.
Yeah. We do that. It's a little Dune reference there if you want that. You know
what?
Or
Yeah.
the Annelid.
No. I'm going to be Shai Hulud. All right. New names. My new code name is Shai Hulud.
Yeah. We'll just call you Shai.
And I'm the big dude.
Big dude. So, actually, just so you know, Justin, your big man suit, it's basically like a modified, birthday party sumo suit, but bigger. The inflatable, bouncy.
Wait, so am I actually growing or
You're
is my
bigger. Yeah, you're bigger. You're a little Stay Puft Marshmallowy bigger, but you're bigger.
Okay, but I'm not physically growing. I just have a suit that gets really big.
Yeah, that the other thing's not possible.
Okay. Well, I mean, he has worm hands. I thought maybe we had a little leeway.
Look,
but
I was first to move. I got them irradiated worms.
all right. Well, I mean, the early bird gets the irradiated worm, I guess. So I'll just get the is this like tough armor? I'm not gonna have some joker with a long hat pin that's gonna really put a damper in my day.
How long of a hat pin? And who has a hat pin anymore? Really? I mean, let's be serious, okay? I mean, we could.
Of course. Listen, that's what we say as we cut to our greatest villain, the Haberdasher.
Hey, Justin, check out what I could do. And I split my hands into thousands of worms, and I give him the greatest scalp massage he's ever had. It's ecstasy and bliss and relaxation beyond words.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm never going to look anywhere other than straight forward. And I'll demand you always stand behind me.
Wait, I just got a phone call. Really? How many hat pins? How many boxes of salt did he buy?
Uh-oh.
We may have a leak. Anyhow, you guys don't need to worry. Everything's fine.
Oh, gosh. All right, you want to know what? We're ready to roll.
All right.
Big dude, and Shia-Lude. We're here to save the day.
Gentlemen, your mission is, we think, a man we only know as CB, Commander Bryce, a.k.a. the Nesh.
Okay.
He may be up to something. We found a connection between some property deals and some other things between here and a place in Russia. So we've got we need you to go investigate what could be a potentially secret base.
So what you're
RB
saying is we have to penetrate the Nesh complex.
Yes. Yes. And I got to tell you, he is a master of disguise.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll see him coming. Hey, so
You
am
ever
I.
see the fake mustaches they sell, in the novelty store.
Yeah, guys, we're really gonna get him.
He bought the one with all of it. Oh, here's our new guy, the dude, big man.
Hey,
the
bro.
one. This is the dude. This is the Mr. Dude, mustache dude.
PCH, bro.
All right. Hey, mustache dude. I mean, appreciate you hanging loose and all that. You seem like a real swell bra, but like,
What's up, bro?
I don't
I
see your
just
name
want to
on the
let you
list
know.
here, but I'll put it in right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm already the big dude. I feel like having a dude and a big dude is just kind of repetitive.
Is
Can
this
we just go ahead
redundant?
and get a can we get a version 2 on your name?
Yeah.
Can you just change your name? I mean, after all, it's only fair. Justin's had his new name for all of 3 minutes, so I don't know
Yeah.
how long you've been the dude.
Well, why don't I be Dude One? How about that?
Well,
The
I
Dude
like the
One.
glasses. I got a name for you. Ready?
Okay.
Risky business.
Ooh.
Oh, all right. So here we go.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
The power trio. Shai-Hulud, the dude, and risky business.
I bite my 3 fingers and then stretch them into worms pulled very tightly, and then begin to pluck with my other hand and start laying down a bass line. Boom, 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 boom. I'm like, that'll be our
Just
theme
split
music.
in half. It's disgusting.
Why the worms? That's gross. Okay. All right. So
All
we're
right. Well, anyway, the 3 of us are best friends forever, fighting crime until the day we die. Nothing can come between us. We just met 5 seconds ago.
Yeah,
Off
bro.
to penetrate the Nesh complex.
So, gentlemen, look out there. You see the Department of the Dump Learjet gassing up on the runway.
Yeah, I run over. I say, dibs on the aisle seat, and run up to it.
Oh, sorry. No, that's for me, guys. I'm out of here.
Oh, man,
You get
Max.
to fly coach to Russia.
Where are we flying from?
Airport down the road.
Dibs on window.
Okay, hopefully it's Southwest so that I can do my trick of boarding early and then turning into a pile of earthworms so no one wants to sit next to me, thereby giving me 3 seats all to myself.
You think the air marshal's not gonna check on a big pile of worms?
Well, I mean, if he does, I'll just form some lips out of the worms and say, "Be cool, bro. Don't worry about it. It's just
I mean,
it's
look,
actually
you're,
me."
you're
Shai
making
Hulud.
the passenger shaming Instagram for sure with that kind of nonsense.
There's a big pile of worms right in front of me. Check it out.
All right, I'll
And
stay
like
in
80
human
clips.
forms the whole way.
All right, so we're going to
And
Russia.
just so you know, he doesn't really turn into worms. It was a psychotropic. He thinks he sees it. He just starts doing the worm on the ground.
That's fine. I'm still okay.
Yeah, that's really what
I'm
happens.
living my best life.
Worms, and people are like, okay.
Turns out that the worms were helping to harvest psychotropic mushrooms, so
Yeah.
that's what I'm experiencing.
Every time you stare at your hands, like, whoa. And now you have a big tapeworm in your stomach. So
Ah, man, I can eat anything now.
We
But
fly to Russia.
fast forward, here we are. You just got dropped off by a van, and there's a perimeter, there's a fence. Big, long fence, right? Now, Risky Business just said, hey, guys, I got to go take care of some business. You carry on.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
that
hey,
seems
that's-
perfectly normal.
Bum, 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 bum.
He just slid off his screen.
Hey, look. Hey, Shai Halud.
Yeah.
Nothing suspicious about that. We definitely just showed up and he peaced out immediately. But we got to go ahead and penetrate the Nesh complex.
Yeah, watch what I could do. And I walked through the chain link fence, briefly turning into worms for a second, or at least that's the way I perceive it.
Yeah, well, it's there. There's a gap in the fence, and you just sort of climb through there.
I'm
But
like,
that's fine.
see, I did it.
Yeah.
Just-
But then there's a bigger, tall metal fence, and there's actually you see some armed guards standing there. But there is a guard booth, and there's a guy wearing a different brand of sunglasses and a different kind of mustache that looks like on the board of like fake mustaches you can buy at the novelty store. It's the one down and to the right of the one, the mustache that matched the one that Risky Business had before, but it's Russia. Everybody has beards and stuff. And
Yeah.
So he's at the guard booth. Do you want to go talk to him?
I do. I approach him and say, "Hey, what's with the stupid mustache, idiot?"
I shout, "Burn!" from behind him.
Yeah. Hey, we're trying to get into this complex. What do you say you just make with the keys so we can walk in the front door?
Guard.
Hey,
Bryce,
that's you.
Sorry, I thought-
idiot with the stupid mustache. Why don't you stop
Oh,
being an idiot?
Sorry, I've got-
He's
oh,
drunk
wait,
on
different.
vodka. It's what they do here,
Yes,
guys.
I was busy getting my other sunglasses. What is this?
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead and let us in because you're a stupid idiot and we're awesome guys.
Hey, that's not nice.
Hey, just kidding. That was a little technique called negging. I really think that you're an awesome person and you're validated in my eyes.
I'm going to need you to
uh,
demonstrate your
official, we're from the Russian Standards and Practices Division, so we need to do a routine check. So why don't you go and let us in?
Oh, and I hit the button. Boop.
But a trap door opens up underneath you and you fall down.
Oh,
I inflate my suit so I can get stuck in the in the trapdoor chute.
I start doing the worm.
Boop, boop, boop.
Brian crawls out. Justin's still stuck there.
I was like, "Don't worry about it. I got this."
No, let me just put a worm down for me to climb out with.
No, okay. I extend.
Worm Rapunzel.
I extend like the ending of Akira, just a massive tendril of worms blasting forward, and I braid them into a rope and then dangle them down by Justin.
Brian grabs a garden hose, stares at it hypnotically, and lowers it down and says, "I'm feeding you my worm."
I'm like, grab my worm rope.
I grab his worm for dear life, and
Garden
I
hose.
inflate my suit, and I'm pulled up to safety.
Oh, I don't know what to do with that.
You're like, "Hey man, now you got it. You're in some real trouble." And I blast I blast worms. I fire at them in your eyes. I go, "Worms in your eye attack."
Brian reaches into his pocket, pulls out a bunch of dirt and worms, and throws it at the window.
Dirt and worms.
But the guard is just terrified of dirt, actually.
I
He's a
hate dirt.
germaphobe. And he's like, "I will tell you anything.
Open up that. First of all, first unlock the door. Unlock that door.
But don't you read sign? It says danger in here, dangerous things, diseases. Don't you want to ask me questions?"
I mean,
No, all right. So number one, it seems like you're speaking with many voices. Number two, how about what's going on in there? Hey, look, we're Standards and Practices. Remember that you everything you say can and will be held against you in a Russian court of law.
yeah. And on Mars.
Yeah. So what's going on? Hey, listen. It's all fun and games when it's trap doors and garden hoses, but now let's break it down to brass tacks. We're all in on this old Russian joke of "Let me in, no, I'll drop you through a trap door." That's your grandpa's humor.
Yeah.
Let's break it down to business.
Listen, all we're doing in here is education.
Yeah, I mean, that seems
and
above
science.
board.
So,
Well, I mean,
What kind of science?
yeah, you got students? Who are you teaching?
no, not that kind of science.
Oh.
But, we're learning about the world.
Well, what's to
In
learn?
here.
You got dirt on the ground. You eat the dirt, you poop the dirt,
Yeah.
and maybe it rains sometimes.
Well, if I had anything
All
to say
right,
about
all
it, we would
right,
not
all
have that
right.
dirt.
Worm-centric questions aside.
Oh, okay. I mean, I didn't know what else there was.
How about if it's just non-toxic science and education, then I think there will be no problem for us to be let in so we can investigate what's going on.
Yeah.
We just you need to really be like a scientist. I know you guys said you were like investigators, but the standards and practices, that's just words, right? Like,
Well,
we can just talk
are
words.
they?
Hey, man, don't make me do this. And I hold up my hand, turning it into worms that adopt the shape of a big old skeleton key. It's like, you going to make us let ourselves in?
If you
Brian
could've
lifts
done
up the doormat, finds a key underneath it.
I mean, are you asking me? You.
I say,
no.
we'll just see ourselves in. And I use my worm hand key to open the door.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. The king of Russia will not be pleased when he hears that you didn't let us in.
Man, you know what? He may even the only person who would like it is the King of Dragon. That's who you are.
Yeah.
Not
So anyway, we're leaving now. You're useless, and every mean thing I said about you wasn't negging. It was for real.
He runs off. Now, you walk into a complex. You see a bunch of cargo containers. You can smell some salty, briny breeze of the ocean or the bay. And you see trucks driving around. You see some tents, some big cargo-looking tents, at the edges, and a crane, and some big, black barriers. And
I scan around looking for anything that would be a disguise that we could wear to fit in.
You know what? There are some tarps. You could be tarp dudes dressed in tarps.
Great.
Yeah.
I grab
With fur
Here we go.
hats. And fur hats.
All right.
Well, we both put tarps over our heads and poke holes out. So now we're like blue ghosts with fur hats.
Yeah. And then, so I guess we walk around for. We poke around in a cargo tent. Can we see inside anything? I open literally anything I could open.
You see crates filled with fish.
Yeah. Ooh. I make a finger into a worm, dangle it in front of a fish, and then yank it out, saying, "Psych, not today."
Brian just wiggles his finger in front of a dead fish. And
Why are you flexing on these fish?
I mean, these fish are always eating us worms. Look,
Yeah,
that's
they're
us
higher
worms.
life
And
form
then
than
this
them.
is
Remember
now
that,
I get
right?
my revenge.
All right. Hey, Shai Halud, let's keep politics out of this.
Well, wait, these are dead fish, though, right?
Yeah, they're dead.
The only good fish.
Yeah, the only good ones. Am I right? Just kidding. We're keeping politics in.
All right, so we got a bunch of fish. Let's go on to the next tent, see what we see.
Some mackerel, some more fish.
Wait, so this is just this just seems like a fishery. And
Yeah.
I say, yo, where are the fish at? To see if anybody responds.
Oh, hello. I'm Klaus. The fish are here. The shrimp are in the next tent.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, all right. Hey, we're here from fish. We're the fish optimization consultants. we're trying to-
I have my paperwork for the fish optimizations.
Yeah, let me look at that
hey, Klaus.
paperwork. Hold on. Is this a transfer order? Does this say where these are headed?
Oh, they are going out into the bay.
Wait, you're just dumping the dead fish in the bay?
Wait, so who are you?
Yeah,
we are
hey,
fish optimization experts. Hey, look, Klaus. Look, just between you, me, and the gills here.
Fish optimization experts. FOE. Oh.
Yeah.
I must radio this in.
all right,
Whoa,
real quick.
Whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
this
whoa,
is
whoa.
Klaus.
I-
No,
I turned my arm into
Sweden and
earthworms.
my mother is from Belgium. Sorry, they make fun of me for my accent.
I inflate my suit, knocking the
Oh no!
out of his hand.
Klaus is pinned between Justin's belly and a bunch of fish.
And it's like,
Hey, all right. You're in between a fish and a hard place, and I'm only saying that because I'm physically aroused. Answer the questions. Go ahead, Shai Halud.
yeah, I have ways of making you talk. And then I pull off my head and make him dissolve into worms, and I just rub them all over his face.
He's already willing to talk. You just have to ask him anything.
Brian does the stink finger and puts it in Klaus's face while
I'm
making
like-
his head move back and forth rhythmically.
I was like, now you tell us exactly what you're up to here. This ain't
Oh,
no normal
not that.
fishery.
I'm just the keeper. I just take care of them.
Hey, Klaus, are these fish dead or are they just sleeping?
Are you what they call moron?
I get physically more erect, and I say, answer the question.
Oh, now you know how to make Klaus talk.
A fellow baboon. Okay, so I say, how many fish are here, Klaus? And I run 2 worm tendrils up his nostrils and wiggle around creepily.
Well, each guest eats several hundred pounds of fish per day. So, if I had to count the fish, I would say there's a lot of fish.
Hold on, I turn to Justin and say like, hey man, he's saying guests, but I can't think of a human guest that would eat that many fish, except for that one guy who won the Nathan's Hot Dog Championship. Maybe he would. Do you think he's the guest?
Are you saying that they're keeping Joey Chestnut in the bay so he can eat dozens and dozens and dozens of fish a day?
I mean, maybe, unless you could think of some other interpretation.
Put it on the list of possibilities. I then aggressively asked Klaus, where did you get Joey? In fact, no, somebody, Brian, call Joey Chestnut right now to make
All
sure
right,
he's okay.
I begin Googling Joey Chestnut's name and muttering under my breath, oh, also ask him about Kobayashi. Maybe it's him.
Hey, meanwhile, here comes risky business.
Bum, 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 bum.
Hey, man, you got here just in time. We almost cracked the case. We're pretty sure a hot dog world champion is being kept here on campus.
Oh, good. That's good detective work. You should chase that lead.
Well, I mean, unless, I don't know, is there any other interpretation for what a guest would be besides...
Also, where were you?
I was just doing some of my risky business. Have you noticed that there are like a bunch of cranes?
Well, yeah, there sure are. Maybe they got fat from all those hot dogs and they need help moving around.
So, Joey
All
Chestnut.
right. Hey, look, let's lay this out. Klaus, who are these guests in the bay?
Klaus looks over at risky business and seems confused for a moment, and is like, what guess?
Klaus,
I told
us.
you that this is just a fish packing thing.
I slap him with
And
my...
Joey Chestnut did it. He was here. No, he ran away.
No. Well, then why did Joey Chestnut just post on his Instagram that he's having a coffee in Phoenix?
He hires an influencer helper to do that.
And then I slap Klaus right in the face. Don't lie to me. I'm not an idiot. All right. You said
He used
there-
Hoop Sweets.
It's
You and
geotag.
I know that doesn't exist. Listen, Klaus, you told us very specifically, very freely and of your own will that all these fish are being fed by the hundreds to guests in the bay. What were
I
you talking
said
about?
no such thing.
You told us
Look-
it doesn't matter if the shadowy leader of my cabal kills me for saying it, but there are guests in the bay.
Oh no, I know. Our leader is great. The health plan.
I was like, hey, risky business.
coming
Why don't you give
soon.
him the
bullet
business?
treatments are good.
Yeah, hey, why didn't I take this guy out back and give him the risky business?
Yeah, beat him up and get the real truth out of him. I say worm 5, and I hold out my hand with a bunch of worms.
Ooh, I also don't like dirt.
Really are worms that he. Yeah. Risky business refuses to high five you. He has the same germophobia as the guard.
You're freaked out because my hand is made of worms. I
Yes,
get it.
Literally,
Okay.
yeah. Well, I mean, if that's what you think is going on.
Really
All right.
dirty.
Well, you go risky Klaus's business. I deflate my suit, awkwardly flipping my undercarriage into my belt. And I'm gonna go. Hey, let's go investigate the bay.
Yeah.
Guess are.
So I run on over to the bay and then just sort of. Are there any markers or buoys or notable ships out in the bay?
Oh, well, I'm on the other side of the tent, but I will tell you what you'll see. You see barriers, like rectangular floating barriers in the bay.
Oh,
Some have tents over them, some do not.
yeah. Let's go have a little look-see. And I walk over to him and look.
They're in the water.
Okay, but then
I say, hey, Shai Halud, get on my back, and I inflate my suit as we make a makeshift little boat that we
And
go
the
out.
wind
into
blows
the
you back ashore. And I'm like, did you see the keys to my Sea-Doo?
Oh, thank you, Klaus. Hey, all that threatening of you was really mean, and I hope that you do well and don't get murdered.
Yeah,
Now we
I
got to
hear
see-
a gurgling sound. No!
I'm sure he's just digesting
he's just
that
choked up
compliment.
by your sincerity. He can't believe what good friends you are.
So
so
we get on the Sea-Doo and we
We go over to the pens, and
the
then am I able to see anything in the water, or is it just darkness?
You
What do I see?
do.
What do I see?
You see a fin sticking out of the water.
What kind of fins? Like dorsal fins, back fins,
Yeah,
side fins?
dorsal fin. You see dorsal fin? Yeah.
Hey, big dude. You think?
Yeah.
You think they're raising sharks here?
Well, there's definitely guests, and they're in the bay, and they're eating hundreds of fish a day. So it's either Joey Chestnut does use Hootsuite, or they're trying to grow super predator sharks in this, or maybe they're whales.
Wait, are they whales? I guess whales eat a lot of fish too.
The water's kind of choppy. Maybe the only way to know for sure is to go inside.
Yeah, I was like, that's a good idea. That thought that I just had, and I just sort of put my face into the water, see if I can get a view, but then realize that I don't have any goggles, and also that worms have notoriously poor eyesight. And I look up at Justin and say, "Hey man, maybe this is more a big dude job, because
It's too late, Brian. A big mouth comes up and opens up, and sticks out its tongue for you to rub it.
Oh, it's adorable. I rub his tongue, making sure not to do anything worm-like, because I don't know if
and the
whatever.
big orca whale goes, ooh, coos.
Oh, there's an orca. This all seems above board. This must be a sanctuary, a wildlife sanctuary.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they have their proper licensing. Ain't our job. Let's collect risky business and get the hell out of here.
And the
Hey,
orca looks at you longingly and swims to, 5 feet away to the other end of the pen, and then 5 feet back to the other pen and goes,
Oh, wait a minute. Hey, Justin, I don't think this guy's having a good time at all.
and neither are there's 8 brothers in there with him.
Oh,
and remember,
geez.
there's about 12 of these pins.
Oh my God, 12. Justin, I think we're seeing a horrible environmental violation.
This is a real thing, by the way, guys.
Yeah,
Real
dude, we're looking at the picture right now. Time to break character. Realizing those are whales, that is not enough room.
Oh my God.
belugas, yeah.
My God. So, like 8 belugas to what looks like, I don't know, maybe 1,000 square feet.
And some of these, there may be more pins covered, like we're looking at least 10 or 12 of these, and there may be even more of them because there are these covered areas over there. So
Oh, so who are the real heroes who discovered this and put the word out on it?
well, gentlemen, what this is a facility in the city of Nakahika in Russia's southeast is being investigated by Russian prosecutors who are examining whether this is a detainment for illegal commercial purposes. They think they've been capturing whales to sell them on the black market, and particularly to Chinese theme parks.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Well, and they're not even breeding them. I guess in theory, they could do this by breeding a bunch of whales, but that's probably harder than just going out and capturing them.
It takes forever, and the chances of them successfully breeding in captivity is limited. So easier just to go capture them. They get about $6 million a piece. An orca can fetch is like $6 million a piece. I don't know what a beluga goes for.
Oh my God, that's awful. And that does seem like a crazy billionaire thing to do, is to get me an orca.
China has 60 aqua aquariums and entertainment parks, marine parks, and a dozen more are under construction.
Wow, man, that's a bummer. Well, I mean, that's great that they found them though.
But that's not until a big dude in Shialud broke in and said, we're busting your orca ring. That's it. I'm calling Joey Chestnut, and he's gonna call the police.
Yeah.
This is it's over for you hoes.
I turn into all the worms I can, and I say, I give up my worm power for one awesome move. I will cut all these nets and set them free.
I start singing Free Willy.
Brian gets a fire axe, pushes Justin off the Sea-Doo, and drives like a maniac around, hacking open all the whale cages.
I inflate my suit and sing the rest of Free Willy.
And then I, exhausted, I say, well, I think I've lost my worm powers, or I've finally sobered up, but we did it. We set them free.
Meanwhile, on a hovercraft, gleaming in the sun, is Joey Chestnut, who says, "Did you ring? It's me, Joey Chestnut. Come on, boys."
You foiled my plan to raise money to take over the world.
Yeah, it turns out business was a bit too risky. Also, I guess you were a bad guy the whole time? I'm just now putting that together.
What? No, Risky Business just showed up. He just came up. He's on another really nice looking all gold Sea-Doo that you could only get out of like a Russian Neiman Marcus catalog.
Think again.
Ah!
Now I'm out of here. Da, 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 da.
So every time Bryce does that for audio listeners, he slides his video out of frame, like Tom Cruise in Risky Business doing
Next time, Risky Business. As we both, me, Shai Hulud, and Joey Chestnut shake our fists in unison.
Big
Man,
dude,
weird why he
child.
left like that in a hurry. Did he have something else to go do?
Who
He
knows?
didn't even stick around to help you guys catch the bad guy.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he had
He had some hot
I
dogs.
know,
Joey-
Joey's
Joey
celebrating
Chestnut.
us freeing these whales.
Oh my God. Hey man, I got a pick.
What up?
The you like the Radio Lab? Yeah, that show, the Radio Lab. They got Jad Abumrad has another show called More Perfect, and the first 2 seasons were all about Supreme Court cases. This time they're doing something different. They're creating, in the spirit of Schoolhouse Rock, an album that they're calling the Most Perfect Album. 27 songs from 27 different artists, each one about a different amendment, and including talented artists like, I don't know, Dolly Parton. She talented enough for you?
Yeah.
And the podcast walks through all of these stories. It's great because I before listening to this didn't even know the right number of amendments, and didn't even know how many of them I didn't know. And to get context and stories on the podcast to take you through everything, and to celebrate and put a little button on top with a song that, once you understand the context of everything, has a little more weight behind it. It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, and it looks like they have a series of episodes about the tracks on the album.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
So you would subscribe to More Perfect Season 3 for the podcast with all the stories and little snippets of the songs, or the album itself. I believe it's themostperfectalbum.org or something.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm digging it a lot.
That is wonderful. I love that Schoolhouse Rock and all that, and it's such a great way to remember stuff. Like, you know, with song.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Yeah, I got a pick for you guys. Man, I wonder which one I want to go with. Finished season 3 of Preacher. I love Preacher. I have some questions about where they go from where they ended the season. But man, if you want a show that never shies away from being what it knows it is best as, and knows that it can do that not many other shows can do in terms of fantasy storytelling and world building that always is kind of true to itself, even when it is super crazy, then go ahead and check it out. And man, do they not skimp on the gore. Like that is a show that now finds itself almost in a troubling position where it's like, how are we going to top what we've already done in terms of ultra gore? And man, there are some stomach turning moments, but that's the aesthetic of the show. So go ahead and check it out. It is so fun. The writing's tight and never anything other than really entertaining. The acting is always well done.
I have a pick. I don't think I mentioned it on this show, but I've been watching American Crime Story: The People versus O.J. Simpson on Netflix, and as someone who was not following the O.J. story when it unfolded because I was a single-digit number of years old, that's an interesting story, and there are a lot of moving pieces, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see the legal system and how it bends and stretches when you have this huge personality attached to it, and everyone wants to clear away but also get the spotlight and find justice, etc., etc.
This is the FX fictionalized one, right?
Yeah, this is the Ryan Murphy one.
The Hulu, if you really want, oftentimes like Netflix will have something like that, and then you can watch a documentary on it.
Hulu has
the 6-hour
documentary.
Yeah,
basically,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll check that out afterwards. But I'm like halfway through now. I think it's really interesting that they've sort of made the female prosecutor sort of the main character. Marcia Clark, when she's like surrounded by other people who also like became really famous or well known for being attached to the case. Where I wouldn't necessarily say.
Wow, that's so funny that your take, because you did not follow it, is that Marcia Clark did not become famous when like she was probably, aside from OJ, even remembering that unfolding as a boy, Marcia Clark was certainly as famous as Johnny Cochran. Now, what differentiates it is that Johnny Cochran kind of stayed in the spotlight where Marcia Clark sort of retreated. But man, in that moment, Marcia Clark was, she was just as much of a main character as anybody else in that melodrama.
Yeah,
sure. But you think about, to Bryce's point, though, but like Johnny Cochran basically became, a parody on Seinfeld. And Kardashian, his kids went on to such fame. So it's like names that sort of linger.
Well, even like side names, like I not knowing much about the case, knew about Faye Resnick because she was on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, not from also being a friend of Nicole Brown. And so it's weird, like the spread of that case and how far away we are from it. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a really good look.
Part is why it was such a big deal, because he had so many people central to Hollywood involved in that, and in Brentwood and all that.
Yeah. I would also recommend the book that it is based on. It is based on Jeffrey
I Want to Tell You.
Toobin book.
No, not I Want to Tell You.
If I did it.
Yeah, is it also the People versus O.J. Simpson?
I believe it's the same name, but I went through when O.J. Simpson fever gripped the nation like a year and a half ago, and they had the Run for His Life and the People versus O.J. Simpson. I read that book, which is good, and that's a fairly dry kind of laying out of the case, and also a little bit of stuff that they don't really cover in. The show picks up right at like the murder and the trial.
Right.
The book does a little bit more of kind of filling in
The background and context
OJ,
and stuff.
and their very, very, very troubled marriage and the things that were leading up to what happened. But I thought that the series was good. I mean, it delivered just the right amount of in the moment 90s nostalgia with I think an representative, if dramatized, version of an already insane story.
Very cool. But yeah, I've been watching that. That's all on Netflix, American Crime Story. And then I don't know anything about this Versace season that I guess they're doing.
Andrew can tell a very funny story about the manhunt for Versace's killer.
Yeah, I mean the short version is I remember being the one white guy in a neighborhood near Miami when the name Andrew Cunanan was all over the news, and being in a store and they're like Andrew like being called to a counter or something like this, and all the eyes just go towards me.
By the way, a statewide manhunt for a tall white guy named Andrew.
Yeah, great. It's a great time. A lot of people just don't know what it's like to be profiled. It's just, I have a pick, and man, like, I've never used anxiety medication, but I seriously considered this while watching this because there were moments where I'm like, wow, maybe it's my state of mind, but I'm feeling anxiety like I have not felt in a movie or show in years. Wow. Because the tension building was so good. And I'm going to be the last person on the podcast to mention Bodyguard.
Yes. Bodyguard, Netflix and BBC's Bodyguard.
Because I haven't seen it yet, so don't, unless I never watch it.
Justin?
Yeah.
Watch it.
All right.
The tension building, and I will not talk about plot or anything like this. I will tell you the tension building in this is really, really good. Mm-hmm. First episode in, and this is, you think of something that's vaguely like a 24 survive, and now those sort of, dealing with stuff. And throughout, the believability gets pushed a little bit, but I was still into the world, still liked it, and the tension building was fantastic. I was feeling like, oh my God, I'm like anxious here. I'm genuinely nervous about what's happening, and this is not real.
So I also won't get into specifics, but like especially when you mentioned 24, like the elements of the show that are very like in the same vein as 24 mm-hmm. in terms of surveillance states, I guess. It's one of those weird things where it's like, oh, is this show also trying to justify a surveillance state? And that plays into the tension as the story unfolds.
Yeah, it's a very, you don't quite know what the point of view of it is, which is what I dug, is it makes kind of this very good points from either sides. And, you sometimes watch stuff like, well, are they going to say these bad guys aren't really bad guys? Are they this or this, whatever? I'm aside from any of that. The storytelling, it was so good. And it's like, it's like, I would say it's like, 24 meets House of Cards, the British House of Cards kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Because there's still politicking and
yeah, the original. If you ever saw the original British House of Cards, that's that plus like 24 kind of thing, and this and that, and it just, the tension is just, I really dug it, and I thought Richard Madden, I thought he was great. It was a really great role for him. He was perfect casting, etc. So, Bodyguard. I'm just like, Bryce and Brian are like, yeah, Bodyguard. I'm like, man, and I literally thought, was this like a remake of the movie?
No.
No.
Well, and it really does. It grabs you by the gonads in the first 5 minutes, like, and it doesn't let go till minute 25, and then you can breathe. I mean, it's.
Did you get to finish watching it?
No, I got sick, and so that threw everything upside down.
You can't watch TV when you're sick.
Well,
how many episodes how far into it are you?
I finished the second episode. It's only 6 episodes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
this week for reals.
More surprises in store for you, Brian.
Yeah, man. Like,
Klaus, get him!
Yeah,
The
I'm
worm
back!
tendrils.
Rips off his mask, and it's just a mask of himself.
Yeah.
It's like remember Back to the Future where Christopher Lloyd rips off. I didn't want to frighten you, so I wore a mask.
Yeah.
You're like,
Like, that seems a bit contrived. He's like, you're telling me, wait till you see the rest of the movie.
waka waka.
Brian, don't touch the classics. All right. So that it? That on picks?
Yeah.
Good?
No, we're good.
Picks. So yeah, if I'm here to tell people if you want to put something in the queue, do Bodyguard. I'm gonna watch it again with my girlfriend. I'm like, I won't shut up about it, and so I watched it when she was asleep. So I'm bad. It's just welcome to guilt things. All right, gentlemen, it's been weird.
Cool.
All right, be right back.
When you have to go get the kid, Brian?
They have a week off. They're here.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So
Cool.
we're good to keep on going.
Then we're good to keep going. Okay, well, let's get a little bit of music going. Yeah, the kids have all week. When I was a kid, we never got all week off for Thanksgiving. We would get, like, I think we would get Thursday and Friday, maybe Wednesday, but I don't remember getting all week off. That's crazy. That's some crazy stuff. But I don't know. I don't know. I haven't been in elementary school in 2 decades or so. I don't even know. For a very long time. Hey, good show, everybody. We're going to do After Things here in just a few minutes. Let's close some of these links out. But yeah, American Crime Story really got me. You know, the one thing, and maybe this will be my pick for After Things, but I found myself playing the new Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. And I knew going in that it was like kind of stripped back from sort of where the Pokemon games ended up, like in Pokemon Sun and Moon or Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or what is it, Oris. But I'm like 3 or 4 hours into playing it, and I'm actually like, I think it's really cool because it feels very much just like a remake of the first Pokemon games. Justin, are you on this Pokemon Let's Go tip?
Not yet. I am still on the Pokemon Go,
Right.
but I've not gotten into the Pokemon Let's Go, although apparently there's some crossover. Like,
Yeah, there's some sort of communications feature between the app and the game. I haven't looked into that very much, but I'd be interested because you've never played any of the Pokemon games, right?
never. No.
So I'd be interested to see what you think about it because, like, a lot of the diehard fan reaction to Pokemon Let's Go is like, oh, well, it's a stripped down game, and it just means that when they make the next real game of Pokemon on the Switch, it's going to be like dumbed down. But I've been playing it, and like, it feels just like the very first games. Like, it feels like, I mean, because it is essentially a remake of those first ones. But like, as far as systems go, the only difference is instead of fighting a bunch of wild Pokemon to grind, you're just catching Pokemon. Yeah, and so it's a weird thing of like shifting away from battle, but also grinding was always the worst part of those games. Those are the worst parts of JRPGs is grinding.
Yeah.
And so I think if you say, oh well, we're gonna take the grinding out.
Man, I just walked
be a
into
good
something.
thing.
I don't know what this is.
No, we're talking about the new
Grinder used to be
Pokemon
about the
game.
grinding.
Okay. But yeah, I don't know. I like am a little like really enjoying Pokemon Let's Go, and I think if they make the new game much more complicated than that, I think I'm not gonna like it. I don't know. I think I'm a fake Pokemon fan.
Well, you know, we will see. But no, I'm excited to give it a Give it a whirl.
Yeah. All right, let me do a few things here. To page behind the scenes. Here we go. Update info. Boom. Okay. I think we're good for after things. You don't. Nobody has a heart out or anything.
No.
No, but I'm sure Bonnie, she's still out of commission, sick with whatever I had last week. So
Okay.
I'm sure there's plenty for me to be doing.
Keep it tight.
Yeah, I mean, I do have 1-900 at 3, so.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Well,
I won't do a 3-hour after thing.
thank you. All right. Well, then, if we're good for after things, then I'll count you in. In 3.
Oh, wait.
Oh, okay. There we go. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for it now. The other thing about Pokemon Let's Go. I actually also really like that it's only the first generation Pokemon. There's all the new ones look weird. Seen the ones that look just like keys. Hey, this one's just a big keychain with keys on it. That one, I don't like the keychain one. Oh, this one's a chandelier. Check out my chandelier Pokemon. Anybody? Mueller?
You're talking to a guy here who literally used to call Pokemon Pokemon, and people thought I was just trying to be funny. Yeah, she's like, I thought, like, no, like it was like after me, like I missed that window. I not that I would have really been into it, and then I'm like, I'm the old man, watering Pokemon. What is this Pokemon? I literally, people are like, it's funny you say that. I'm like, and I'm not trying to be, I'm so cool. I don't know. I'm just so oblivious. I have no idea.
Sure.
I mean,
okay.
we've noticed this many times on shows when I, I'm like, well, this thing called this, whatever, Nintendo, whatever this is. Apparently, Marvel's making a movie about a superhero. You see the new Deadpool, the Christmas version trailer with Fred Savage?
Yeah, the PG-13 cut. We've talked about that on Cord Killers the past few episodes.
Yeah, I think
Or
I
just
haven't
released
seen
trailer.
the trailer for it yet. We only had that one screenshot when we covered the story.
Yeah, Fred gets some zingers in against, he's like, I like Marvel movies. Deadpool's like, we are Marvel movies. He's like, well, you're like, if Nickelback made a Beatles song. So I'm just waiting for my computer to slow down. I'm doing, there we go, some style transfer, machine learning stuff there, and it's done. I'm all good. All good. It's back.
Awesome. Then
I'm ready.
we can start the show.
Hello and welcome to After Things. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Justin Robert Young,
Hello.
our super producer Bryce Castillo,
Hi. Oh, I'm down on the second billing now. Okay. Hello. Welcome.
and
Of course.
Mr. Brian Brushwood.
That's my new catchphrase.
I have two things I want to talk about, and the second thing, if we don't get to it, that's fine. The first thing I want to talk about is this. I bought something last week. I bought it because it was cool, and I bought it because it was an experiment, and I bought it because I thought it was a neat sort of thing, and I also bought it because, hey, maybe something we could talk about on After Things. And, there's this thing when you make things or you do stuff and you do it for an audience, and then you're like, hey, this is great. I got this audience. I think I'm kind of at the limits here, and I could do something really radical to find a new audience for the thing I do, or I can maybe find a new thing. For me, it was books. I wrote sci-fi, but I said, you know what? I'm going to do thriller mystery. I went from sci-fi to thriller mystery because far more people read thriller mystery, and that was a big step up for me. Now, a friend of the show, you may have heard of him, Brian Brushwood, released a product
Yes.
on Scam Stuff,
Yes.
which is this puzzle box themed around Harry Houdini.
Yeah.
This Harry Houdini puzzle box, and I thought, like, it's a lot of like what I did. It was a bold step to say, hey, oh, is this a trailer for it?
Yeah.
Commercial? I haven't seen this.
Oh yeah, no. Bryce put it together. So we we kick off with like a little 40-second intro thing, Bryce sort of spends hours getting different shots, just trying to figure out how to tell the story and make it something that. Basically he's his own wood whisperer. He listens to the box and then makes it sing.
Yeah, it's I think this took maybe 3 or 4 hours to shoot, just in terms of getting all this footage.
For the audio listeners, if you haven't seen it, you can go to scamstuff.com. But basically, it's the most jam-packed puzzle box we've released yet, with a whole bunch of goodies on the inside, themed around Harry Houdini.
But yeah, it's got like little bars on the front, and you can see Harry's face laser etched in it, and so on.
And I promise you this was not meant as an infomercial for Brian. But it was this you've been doing you do really well with scam stuff. You've come up with really cool stuff. But I imagine you reach a point, you have anything. Like, we've talked to entertainers, our podcasters, and you're like, hey, I'm at the limit of this niche. Now I might be able to just grow this, but I'm looking over the fence there, and man, there's a lot more there. Maybe I take what I know here and I apply it out there.
That to be honest, is why we previously all of the puzzle boxes have been Brian Brushwood themed or Scam School themed or whatever. And if you received one as a gift, there would be this moment of like, oh, well, there's this show and this thing and there's a deck of cards and you should care because also the show's good. Like, this was designed to be approachable to the outside. It's the first puzzle box that we did that. It's also why we developed the Modern Rogue as an intellectual property, because Scam School is like, okay, what's bigger than Scam School? Well, then we came up with the, Gentleman Warrior Scoundrel thing, where it's like now Scam School is sort of a sub-neighborhood of a much broader archetype of this idea of being the ultimate modern rogue.
I think because that's one of the things you sort of run into in Magic is that, there's the express, if you have 10 great tricks, you can be a pro and can work a lot and do that. A lot of people get into Magic because they love the process of learning something new. Not that they ever have any, go do it for their family and friends. And that's a big part of the Magic audience is really, there's something, and there's the comment like, amateurs change their tricks and the audience stay the same. Pros change their audiences, the tricks stay the same. It's a little bit condescending because it's sort of, it's like, yeah, oh, you only play your guitar for your family and friends. Ooh, look at you, loser. It's like, yeah, no, they love it. We hope. And I think that's the thing is there's that one of the things a niche in Magic that isn't always sort of recognized is like, a lot of what you're doing is like what I did, you did, is like I'm creating stuff for people who want something new. They just want something new to play with. And it's not all because we're all going to be pros like I am. It's like, no, I want to learn a new song to play. I want to learn a new thing. And that's part of the experience. I think that's the difference sometimes. Amateur originally meant for the love of. But here I thought this was just, I thought it was sort of neat thinking in doing that.
Yeah. Do you have a take in that in your life, Justin?
I'll let you know when I find it.
Okay, all right.
Well, but to your, getting into board games and stuff, trying to take some of your passions and stuff and saying, let me go outside of the, because you were a podcaster and you did this thing, but then you've created content now that exists for people who have no idea who you are. Yeah.
No. That is totally true. Between Contender and Action News, it put me into play in a, another subgenre, but certainly one that is hungry to buy, and that is awesome. It was a great opportunity to go and do it, and very often it creates as many questions and problems and challenges as it does benefits. But no, totally. I mean that's a much larger niche, and then from there. Trying to figure out with John and I what we want to do next is even kind of another challenge of like, all right, well, we have Contender and Contender sells, and Contender will specifically kind of did well in the midterms. It'll do well this Christmas. It'll do well specifically over the next 2 years as politics again becomes something that is more on the tips of people's tongues than it already has been. But then the question is, all right, well, do we do another politics game? Do we take this branding that we have and kind of expand into like apparel or other kind of identifiers of in a more politically aware world where people want to buy and identify themselves more than ever, even if it's just as somebody who's politically active or literally just wants a cool pin or shirt or hat that shows that they are inclined on such a level. So that's kind of where we're going now is just trying to figure out for these next 2 years where we take this, even in the contender world, which was broader than the podcasting world, how we even go kind of farther than that.
Well, and also with the new podcast series you're working on.
Sure, yeah, and that is in the podcast genre. There's only so many people that want to listen to my unvarnished opinion week by week, and the great vast majority of hit podcasts right now are either spin-offs of other popular radio shows or spin-offs of the podcast versions of the popular radio shows, or single use. Man.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Thought I hit the mute button on that one. Sorry about that.
Twice. Number 2.
Dear Microsoft, I would like to have bigger mute buttons in Skype.
Told you, dude.
Tell about what you really think about podcasts.
Here's my pick. It's a cough drop button. that physical cough drop button. That's my pick for this week.
I would screw that up too, Brian.
Oh my god.
So anyway, yeah, I would like to do a show where more people would listen to it. I don't know. I mean, like since my co-hosts find everything I say so interesting that they want to love and support me.
I had a runny nose. I blew my nose and I missed the mute button.
It's fine. It's fine.
I asked the question. I prompted you for this.
I know. Just to bait me out. Just to wait for I can be vulnerable. Just to blow your nose.
Like, wait for it. Wait for it. Now.
No. I mean, so yeah. I do think that's. It's a larger question of kind of how you draw those lines and then how do you execute on it. And with Modern Rogue, I think for Brian, that was kind of an answer to the question of like, and I'm going to put it in a very base level that ignores all of the subtlety and brand building that kind of went into it. But it's like, why don't you do prank videos on Scam School? Right? Because that's not Scam School. Scam School is you teach a trick and you can do other wider things. And although you don't want to do prank videos on the Modern Rogue, right, this gives you the ability to look at other wider trends and say, oh, okay, well, we can do our spin on this. Like if the ice bucket challenge was a thing with now the Modern Rogue in full spin, you could figure out the Modern Rogue version of the ultimate cool thing that you could like. How long can you last in hypothermic thing? That's a very
hot charcoal briquette challenge.
Yeah. And you can do the reverse ice bucket challenge where you're in ice cold water for however long you're able to do it, because that's the aesthetic of the Modern Rogue. Where that was a very from your perspective, watching you build that brand, it was kind of brilliant to say, all right, well, what do people latently want from Scam School in a way that would probably even piss them off if we started to, we would piss off a core audience if we all of a sudden took Scam School and made it into this broader kind of channel. How can we do that in a bigger, cooler way that that simultaneously gives people what they might want, but also unshackles us from having to say, oh, and this is the double lift.
Right.
There's a lot to be said for stopping and looking around at going, like, what am I good at? What am I really good at? And it's not, sometimes it's, you can be specific, like Brian's really good at teaching magic on YouTube.
Oh no, yeah,
right?
that's the conclusion, not the foundation. Like if
Yep.
you're looking at the core bits, because this is why I quit my day job and decided to be a magician, is because I did an honest assessment of what I thought of as my natural gifts. I don't mind talking to people. I seem to be able to get up in front of an audience. I seem to be able to tell a joke. I love being mischievous and all that stuff. Things I'm not good at. Tediously working on bone placement in character animation software for 14 hours at a stretch, you know. And as I evaluated all my natural gifts, it's like, well, it just seems like you should be doing magic for a living, or at least give it a try. And then out of that came, you know, I eventually learned how to be good at teaching magic on the internet. But first, as we've talked about before, you have to be bad before you become good. I had to learn how to talk to the camera and all that stuff. But all of it played to those core abilities of being present enough and being able to speak extemporaneously and, I don't know, occasionally being funny and so on.
Well, and so I guess my point was to be that, like, in the process of doing the show, though, you became very good at explaining things on the internet or explaining things on TV. And that was like, oh, yeah, I can explain magic, but, like, let's get rid of the magic. Like, oh, yeah, I can explain other stuff, too. I have to tell you, you know, what this card shuffle means, what this means, which could be science, it could be other things. And that sometimes you want to step back and go, oh, yeah, if I take off the last thing here that defines me and I get to the core things, the strengths, you realize, wow, there's a lot of skills there that could be used, and then it's figuring out where you want to go with it. I think Justin's kind of going, you know, obviously going through this point where it's like a lot of skills, a lot of possibilities, but it's now what?
Yeah, and part of the lesson in 2018 for me was figuring out that I had to kind of cull some stuff, and it wasn't that I was necessarily that I didn't like it or that I wasn't good at it. It was just that I needed to put effort into places where I knew there were growth opportunities, and not to say that these other things weren't, but you know, it was something had to go. There's only so much time in the day, and I've really, I mean, so many of my lessons that I've learned have come from you two guys, and watching how the dedication that Andrew puts in to when he's got something that he wants to do, like it really is. There's no substitution to I'm putting all my effort into something, even if it's for like a blocked off time. Like, this is what I am doing. I am, you know, I'm getting this done. I want to test. You know, this personal trainer that I was seeing was talking to me about cardio, and it's like, a lot of people think that cardio is just a good thing to do, like, every time. And sure, it gets your blood pumping for a little bit. But if you really want to train for cardio, you should always be pushing yourself to your limit. You should be finding where your limit is and pushing it forward, like any other exercise. Like, it's just, people think of it as just kind of a you know, steps to walk through. And that's something that, you know, Andrew and his writing career, I mean, Jesus, to watch when you know the dedication put into, like, all right, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to write a thing. I'm going to find out how fast it takes me to plot a thing, to write a thing. It's not, nothing's ever going to be rushed, right? Everything's going to get done. But if I'm not focusing on the craft and the engine's something that I always like to think of metaphorically, of like, hey, look, think of it as a CPU or as a car engine or something like that. But it's either going to run efficiently or it's not. And you're either going to think of ways that you are making it run efficiently or you're not. And that was a thing that I had to realize. Was like, all right, well, number one, there's just a necessity in me saying I make money on X amount of things, right? And I've stitched together X amount of things to make that money, right? And then I have to focus on, if I want to carve out a niche where now I also do 2 or 3 of these kind of anthology series a year, and it's taken me forever from when I had the idea to researching it to actually putting it together. Then that means I'm stretched thin, and be it a time in the day situation or a burnout situation, I just need to be honest to my machine. I have to be honest to myself, and part of it is making hard decisions to say like, hey, look, I gotta shut down my involvement in a couple shows, to say, look, let me see what that does. Let me see how that affects everything. And it's hard. It's hard because there's the decisions that Andrew's talking about and Brian are talking about, to me, have way more to do with honesty and understanding yourself than it necessarily has to do with hard work or hustle. The hard work and hustle are just going to be there or they're not, right? It's the honesty of who you are and what you do and what makes you happy and where you can go, and understanding the playing field before you, that you really need to even apply the hard work and hustle to say like, oh no, well, this is the North Star. And so now I'm walking toward it, and then making all the decisions that go on around it.
It's hard. Like I said, it is hard to sort of go, hey, I could do this, and to say where to focus, because you don't know what's the thing that's going to make it or whatever, and that's hard. So I'd say the second part of what I was going to say is like, what advice would you give yourself 3 years ago?
Oh wow.
Bryce, you get to jump in on this stuff too.
Oh, okay.
No, Bryce, stop talking. No.
Well, I mean, because 3 years ago, I was 1 year into working here.
Wow. It's been 4 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Coming up in January.
Yeah, it's tough. One of the weird things that happens when you get older is you tend to stick to a few core ideas. You know, you don't wildly change. The epiphanies, there's a few more years before when they hit you or whatever. So even 3 years ago, it feels like, I guess the only advice I would give myself for 3 years ago is move Modern Rogue to its own channel earlier.
Or just start Modern Rogue earlier. Because
Yeah.
when I started here, part of the reason I came here was to help start Modern Rogue,
Right.
and it would be over a year until
Until
Modern
we
Rogue
were
got
able
started.
to do that. And to be honest, what I should have done, that's the other advice I would have said, is Modern Rogue it just kept being words I was saying until
Yes.
I picked up the phone and I told Jason Murphy, I was like, I'm PayPaling you this 4-digit number. Your job is to cause these to no longer be words and force us to start recording.
Mm-hmm.
And so he came up with ideas, and then we got the first episode banged out. And it was I wish I hadn't taken a full extra year to get over the hump of the fear of like, no, it's just such a good idea, I want to do it right. And it's like, done is better than perfect.
Right.
And we moved, I wish we had moved to done earlier.
And I would probably, like, if we're talking about giving ourselves advice 3 years ago, I would probably give myself something like I'm starting to work on some personal projects now of my own, but they're the first actual things that I've been working on in like kind of in earnest in since I moved down here. I've mostly been working on the business stuff, and so I feel good to start making new stuff, and I wish I wasn't waiting as long as I had.
Yeah, I guess on on the Austin front, unified thing is time is a resource,
Right.
And it's burning whether you're using it or not.
Well, and I think, Brian, for you, without getting too much into kind of inside baseball, a lot of those Modern Rogue decisions were also tied to
The TV show.
your TV show and your relationship with the Scam School channel and a lot of those kind of behind the scenes decisions where I think it took a little while for Modern Rogue to be its own franchise and not kind of the many other things that it could be. A fantasy idea, a partial fantasy project to carry on the hacking the system thing with Jason, leverage play. Like, there were a lot of other kind of like reasons why it should and could and will exist, and it took a year for it to be like, oh no, this is a new franchise. It is not like, yes, it might have been born of these other things, but it's like it deserves the time, effort, and attention that kind of go into it, and not all the other like miasma of like, oh, okay, well, it should be started for X, Y, Z, and where do we put it, and how does it go? Like all these things that ultimately you build up in your head and agonize about, but they're 5-second decisions. Whether or not they're good or bad, you can fix them down the road. Like it's always, you know, the faulty lesson is always, and it's, man, I have gone through this with this stupid podcast a million times, like just trying to in my head think of like, oh, but it needs to be like this, but it has to be like that, but it has to be this, and I need to get better at doing this kind of thing. And so
have you,
I know
you've been doing a lot of research for your historical podcast. Have you recorded any seconds
so
of it yet?
here's the thing that I haven't really even shared with you guys is like, I wound up doing a bunch of different voice samples to do kind of like my 10-minute pilot, basically, which would effectively not only be me testing out voices and how things should go and how much production needs to go into it, where the music should be, like all these things that I don't know how to do. Like normally I am from, you know, the very specific school of podcasting, which is forget production, like literally just do it live, get it out
Live to tape.
like that is the brand of stuff that I'm doing, and all the stuff that I'm doing now is the opposite. It is like, no, re-record, get it perfect, make sure that every moment lands, make sure that all this kind of stuff goes in there, and also it has a very specific voice. And so I tried to do it a bunch of times, and I tried to do kind of laid back. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the first podcast I ever did with Andrew. And Andrew is right now shaking his head yes, because, man, at the first time that we recorded a podcast, there's like 2 or 3 episodes of the iTunes or the iTricks Magic Week in Review that are in a digital graveyard somewhere. Hopefully they don't exist anywhere. You know, at this point, I would only hope that they exist so it can be used as a teaching tool for other people that this is something that happens. But I remember I was listening to a lot of talk radio at the time, and I remember thinking, oh, this is the voice. This is how you do it. And we recorded, and oh my God, was it just like simultaneously boring and ear screechingly awful. Like it was just the timing was way off. It was like listening to yourself on your answering machine for the first time.
It wasn't. I don't know if the movie bad. I think, but we and I remember sitting there in our sweaty little Margate, you know, office and, you know, going over and over again. And the thing is we're both perfectionists, and we're driving each other up the wall. You know, I'd be like, we got to do this again. It'd be frustrating, but you're like, yeah, I know we do. You know, and it was this sort of being angry at, you know, not getting it right, but we were both in total agreement. Like, let's keep going over this several times and
so
trying
you'd be
to
doing like multiple takes on a given sentence or
a
a
whole
topic.
We'd record the same podcast 3 times.
Over. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we did it 2 or 3 times before there was a confidence, because podcasting in general is a performative conversation, whether or not you realize it. You are doing things that are unnatural in speech to make it better to listen to. And the more you do it, the better you get at it and the more unconscious it becomes. But
these are your first podcasts, right, Justin?
This is the first podcast, right?
your
And
first,
so
like,
we'd listen to
performing
a million and
God.
you know, this was just the first step into it. So flash forward to this, you know, I'm recording it and I'm trying to do these kind of things. I'm trying to do these kind of vocal things that I know that I like. I want to emulate certain things. I want to not emulate, and other things that I want to differentiate myself from. And eventually the lesson was in the take that I like, was I just needed to trust myself. Like, I have a unique voice. I need to just polish it instead of pretending that I'm a good researcher who's going to now adopt this new persona to do, you know, what I want it to do. And so it's, it's certainly a process, but man, I'll tell you what, that's the biggest thing for me is the lesson of done is better than perfect. It's just like, oh.
Yes, but let me a funny little anecdote. Going back, this is what, 2006, when we first started working on the podcast. There was one podcast in particular that I'm like, listen to this. These guys are really, really good. This is the benchmark. This is where we want to try to get as good at, because I think they're like the best, the rapport, everything. So these guys, Buzz Out Loud,
Yep,
Tom Merritt,
Molly Wood, Veronica, and Jason.
Veronica. Now who have you done podcasts with? Everyone, or friends with, like, all of that's the funny thing is we didn't know any of them. We had no idea who they were. We had no idea. I mean, they're just voices, and it was a super popular podcast. You're like, oh, this is the one that, these are the guys we want to be like. And now, you co-host with Tom, you're friends with Molly and Veronica and all. I mean, that's the sort of funny thing. Was it partially because you set the bar, you looked at what they were doing, and they were doing a great job, and you set that bar up there. This is what you want to do. And look what happens. You wake up one day and, you're late to go do a podcast with Tom Merritt.
And in terms of
look, I mean, that journey has been great, but like everything, you're always defined by what you can do next and how you can take it forward, which was kind of the original thing that we were talking about. But so much of it has been learned by watching the two of you guys put stuff together and expand the field. Continue to play to your strengths.
Yeah, if you're in a position where you're like, yeah, I think I've got the elements I need, but I'm waiting for that magic thing that's going to tell me what will make it perfect. Shut up. Go do it.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a moment where when I was last time when I was down in Austin and we shot the Modern Rogue episode where we talked about kind of a very specific part of the 1960s story that I'm going to tell. It was the first time that I kind of realized, like what the hell am I? I mean, like, there's always going to be another book that I need to read. There's always going to be another thing. There's always going to be some fact that some nerd is going to hit me up, and they're going to be right, and I'm going to have missed out on something, or one of my assumptions is going to be incorrect, and I can't pad my future feelings with enough books for them to not be hurt. Like, I'm eventually going to fall into that bramble bush, and it was so easy and so fun to do that Modern Rogue episode where I could just be like, oh no, look, here's a story. And I know the beats, and I know the funny parts, and I know the gotcha moments, and I know what I need to do. That it's like, and then that happened like right before we had this like month where I was on the road for like a month. So I couldn't do it. But now we're done. And now we're into this season where that's the one thing, is just realizing, write it out. Go do it. Start rolling.
And like, when it comes to the delivery stuff, I mean, I think you're right to like definitely trust yourself. I also think that, you mentioned like if there's production stuff that's coming up and like reach out and send it to people to listen to. I'll happily listen to something and if it's something about music, about editing, like don't just keep it in a box and let yourself stew on stuff like that. No, I'm not.
I haven't sent it around just because I knew I wasn't ready to get the wheels rolling in October, and I just knew that the one thing I can't do is like when I bang this gong, we're getting it on. Like it is something where I am thinking about it every day. Like, this is the number one thing that I have to do. Hopefully the month of December is me packing orders for stickers or DIAF and recording this show and figuring out the technical elements of this show, and everything else is gonna take a little bit of a back burner. Not that I'm not gonna do the shows that I have, but like those are gonna be parceled a little bit more. And the thing that I wake up and go to sleep to is doing that. And I just didn't. This is a psychological thing. I didn't want to send it around to see what people thought because I just knew I wasn't I wasn't ready to be like, okay, well, let's take that and roll. Like just because there was too much that I owed to everybody else around me. There was too much of the Politicon planning. There was too much of the Scoop Fest stuff. There was too much of going to, visit my family and everything, where I just needed to have ducks in a row that I didn't want to take the steam away from it, which is something that I know Brian knows really well. It's like, there's so much in your life that is like robbing Peter to pay Paul on a daily basis in terms of like time and energy.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel great to not be able to overperform expectations for everyone. And hopefully we're entering that phase where we can. What I need is a handler, somebody to place me in front of the thing, and a strict schedule and all that stuff.
Let me know how that works out. The search for that.
Yeah,
it's we all want that person, and not your case. I mean, I know specifically what you want, but I mean, like, before we find our thing, we often want the person to tell us what our thing should be. We fall in love with these myths, these creation myths of people who are successful, because when they tell the stories, we hear these stories of like, oh, so-and-so was doing this, then they wrote this script for this, or they did a podcast with a friend and it was magic. And it's like, 6 years of other jobs, trying to do different things, struggling, near misses, complete failure, then lucky, and lucky breaks happen to people who work hard a lot more often. And so that's the thing, the factor. But we often get very hung up on these success stories of other people and don't realize that a lot of them are BS. It's BS. Is we want a narrative where we were destined for success, which if those of us are struggling, we hear those and we feel like, well, it'll never work for me. We want somebody to come along and say, and this is what you will be, the good fairy from Pinocchio, the blue fairy from Pinocchio, to come grant you, your purpose in life. It doesn't happen like that. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't. And I can think of, a number of things in my life that were extremely contingent that could have gone one way or the other. But end of the day, pick a thing,
Andrew, you tweeted something over the weekend, which was your first tweet that you made. After which book was that?
So I went and I pulled, you can download your entire, I was SideJag was working on a little machine learning project of like building a conversational bot. And I thought the what they did is they had like movie scripts, like questions and answers. I thought it was really a poor choice because it just, you read the individual responses and they seemed totally random. I said, what if I pulled down my Twitter history and tried to do that? Build a bot, Andrew, that respond to that stuff. And so I pulled down my entire Twitter history, and then I looked at my first tweet. My first tweet ever was amusing. It was, so hungry. So hungry. And then a little while later, I found out in like 2011, after I wrote my first novel, which was Public Enemy Zero, and the tweet that I had from there. And it was, Bryce, do you have that there? It's just like probably like my third tweet. I mean, the most recent.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's it.
Finished second draft of my book. Tried to channel Love Child of Michael Crichton plus Stephen King. Told Justin R. Young, okay to bury in backyard.
And so I gave Justin the book to read, and I'm like, yeah, dude, if this sucks, just let me know. Because I finished the novel. I'm like, now I know I can finish books. I knew I could finish a book. That was the most important thing for me. So I'm like, yeah, if this sucks, it's fine. I'll just write another book. I learned so much, And then I gave it to Justin. Justin's like, yeah, no, I think you should put it out. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll put it out there.
I knew it was really. I mean, like that was even in the first draft of Public Enemy Zero, it was something special and very cinematic. And it really didn't change all that much from the version that's out there now and has been optioned multiple times and sold really, really well. And really is like, I mean, as important as Grendel Shadow was to you establishing yourself to our own audience as a writer, I think Public Enemy Zero was the first really big thriller announcement that's like, okay, you're this is something that the promise from that showed a way forward that you have continued to follow.
Yeah, and that was you don't know. I mean you never know. And like Brian's point about like done is better than perfect tomorrow. And that was, I had a book that I finished. It was, the notes on it were good. Like, oh, people like this. People were good. I was watching, and you never know what's going to happen. I saw Bohemian Rhapsody, and they talk about the song, Bohemian Rhapsody, and wanting to release it. And the record exec's like, he knows how it really went down. Like, no, it's too long. It's too long. And, and I kind of defend that point of view. When you're in the music industry, you hear a lot of great things you think are going to be big, and they're not. And then some band says this thing like, yeah, maybe it's good, but I don't think we want to stick our reputation on, putting this thing out there and a 6-minute long song, or because nobody knows anything, and you don't know. And if it meets a certain threshold, well, just get it out there, just don't. Like, that was, if I said, you know what, I'm going to work on my writing craft a while longer, maybe spend a year or two writing, whatever, maybe the next book would have been great, but it turned out the next novel did really well. And anyhow, my point is, like, if I hadn't released that, I don't know what would have happened, but that book got me my agent. That book got me my first film deal. That gave me the energy to keep writing. And the novel I wrote that next year, is the series that brought me my Thriller Award finalist, my Edgar nominations, and all that. And it was like, I didn't know. Like, those books, like, Blackfall, Edgar finalist. It was one of 4 finalists for the Edgar Award, which is one of the best award you could, hope for in mystery. I finished that book, and I'm like, I guess it's good. I hope people like it. I mean, I'm not trying to be like false. I just didn't know. I did everything I did in my checklist of conflict, characters, this. Brian with like Modern Rogue has this checklist things to do. Justin, your podcast, you have this checklist of things to do, and you get to the end of it and you're like, well, did I do what I needed to do? And and then you get to the end of it, you're like, is there more? Is there something I'm missing? And I did that book, and no, guess what? The book was fine.
And part of creating, especially something regular or something you're going to do a lot of, whether it's videos or books or podcasts, is being able to understand what your checklist is, right? Like, on Monday nights we do 6 hours of podcasting, and then I go home and spend the next 6 hours publishing, and there are things that have to happen, and once all those things are done, I'm still like, did I hope I got everything. And sometimes some stuff, whatever. But like it takes repetition to know all the things that you need to do in all the different places, just on a execution level. You have, and then that's where trusting yourself comes into. It's like, okay, no, I've got this done. I did all the things that I need to do. I can't be second guessing myself. You could verify the work that you do, but not. So you can't spend forever second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
Yep. Real artistship.
Hey, man.
All right, guys, picks.
Yeah, man. I got a pick. I think it was last year. I was able to give you my pick of a podcast called Dirty John. And I still think the podcast is wonderful, but now I get to say it again because it's a Bravo television series.
What?
Fictionalized. First episode is up on Bravo's YouTube channel.
Oh, my goodness.
The entire first episode. So
what's the elevator pitch on Dirty John? Because I remember you talking about it, but I don't remember the concept.
It's a true crime story, and the podcast is it's what Serial should have been. Like, imagine if Serial had stuck the landing, as riveting storytelling as Serial, only it absolutely sticks the landing to a degree that Serial could only aspire to do.
So it's like okay, it's a true crime murder.
Yes,
sort of story.
yes.
Okay.
Character comes into someone's life, turns out to not be what he presents himself as. Things get increasingly more interesting from there. As you have to in a television show, you tell a story differently in a fictional television show than a investigative podcast. So I know we always say watch the movie first, then read the book. I'm convinced that I'm enjoying the show more because I experienced the podcast. So maybe break with our traditional advice for this one, because then you don't have to wait for week after week.
Bravo seems like a weird choice for something like this.
Yep.
Because they mostly do unscripted reality or competition shows.
And that's the other thing, is that in the world of podcasts, Dirty John is a perfect Chrome-like polish. It is note perfect at the top of the podcasting game. Mm-hmm. In the world of fictionalized television shows, Dirty John from episode 1 appears to be slightly better than Hallmark movie channel quality storytelling. I can tell I'm enjoying it because it's an excuse to revisit the story. So I would say do both. Listen to the podcast and then get to see people acting out what you heard in the podcast.
Oh, yeah, because at that point it's just a reenactment.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if I can piggyback on your pick,
Sure.
I'm going to double down on Homecoming, another podcast adaptation, but this is an already fictionalized story being adapted by Amazon, directed by Sam Esmail of Mr. Robot.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Starring Julie Roberts, Bobby Cannavale is in there. It's really good. It's a fictionalized sort of thriller mystery sort of story. So there's not like a big murder mystery in it, but you are introduced to this psychiatrist who is working at Homecoming, a center for troops overseas returning home to kind of transition back into civilian life. And so you get to see some of the therapy sessions and a little bit of what life is like living in that facility, as well as for her being a therapist who lives outside of the facility. And kind of dives into the mystery of like, well, you know, the company that runs the facility is this big pharmaceutical concern. Like, what are they trying to get out of this? And there's a sort of split timeline that it tells in parallel of an investigator investigating what happened with the Homecoming facility, and so you kind of get a merge, or like a you sort of burn the candle from both ends as you try to reach the climax point of what really happened with Homecoming. It's really cool and really well done. Like if Dirty John is like the height of podcast production, like Homecoming is beautiful.
Wow.
It is just stunning, and like these huge 2-story sets of these buildings that they made, and all the really good motion control camera work that it's gorgeous. So that's my pick is Homecoming on Amazon Prime.
Awesome.
Finally got around to watching Ant-Man and the Wasp. I really like Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think Marvel's in such a great position when the psychedelic Honey, I Shrunk the Kids caper movie with a great cast is like this kind of afterthought, even to me, because I didn't see it in theaters like I normally see the Marvel movies. But I thought it was just so fun. Just a fun, inventive, clever movie, and everything I wanted from it, I got.
It's neat because it's like, you know, after Infinity War, I mean, you know, people are like, oh, how are they going to do Ant-Man and Wasp after this heavy thing? How are we going to do this? Like, man, Marvel knows what they're doing. Marvel's pretty smart.
Yeah, look, it's a whackety schmackety caper, but at the end of the day, like, I'm here for the things get small, things get big. Everybody has a fun time. You're never at a point where you're ahead of the story. Like, even as without spoiling much, there's the running theme is that a gigantic building is like a carry-on on wheels. You know, like, and so it's like you never really know, like, oh, okay, well, I know where this story where our hero's HQ can literally be anywhere, and the plot revolves around creating a little Micronaut experience like into the Phantom realm. I know where this is gonna end, and meanwhile, the fact that everything it's got heart where it needs to have heart, it has tension where it needs to have tension, and at the end of the day, look, it's a fun kind of lighthearted caper, which I very much enjoyed.
Yeah. I have a software pick kind of thing. I've been having a lot of fun, like playing around with machine learning and neural networks and stuff, and I'm just scratching the surface trying to learn how to do stuff. And I mean, I'm a chimpanzee with a bent stick trying to stick it into a termite mound. That being said, there was a lot of really cool tools out there. Apple at the Worldwide Developers Conference unveiled a thing. If you're an Apple, if you have, familiar with Xcode or doing that, they have a thing called Xcode Playgrounds where you can test out different kinds of code. And they have a thing now called Create ML, which basically means that you put one line that says, Create ML, import this, then another line that says GUI interface, and the next thing you know, on the side of the window is you can drag folders of images, and you can do stuff like image classification and build a little model that will like hot dog, not a hot dog. You can do style transfer, transfer one style to another. And so really easy to do, 4 lines of code, and you're starting to make, neural networks and stuff. There's other cool stuff. Google has TensorFlow, which is great. Create ML is cool because it's the easiest, just a few lines of code, everything's done. They have an open source thing called Turi Create, which works on Python. And I know for most people are going like, I don't know what these words mean. If you have an interest in computers or machine learning, the tools and stuff are out there. And if you have interest in, it's so accessible, so accessible. There's a Google course on machine learning, which I'll probably do maybe in the next week, and maybe I'll talk about it like it's aimed at everybody. So I'll try that and come back, because I would like to get more people that have an interest in this to go take a look at it, because these are the technologies that are going to change the world. It's like talking about the internet in 1991. It's like that, and then all of a sudden everything will be everywhere, and then the more people understand how these things work, the better. So,
Very cool.
Right on.
Push. Go. It's been after.
Awesome.
Woo.
Hey,
Yay.
good shows, everybody.
All right. Well, I gotta double
bogey.
dog duty for
Double
this-
dog dare.
this.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going
Cord
to be
killers.
because I have that show at 3, but I'll talk to you guys. Love you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.